Call to order this Fairfield Plan and Zoning Commission meeting for October 28th, 2025. Start with our meeting minutes from October 14th. I have a motion, please. Commissioner Corsillo.
Move to approve.
Is there a second? Commissioner Harrison. Commissioner Corsillo. Commissioner Harrison.
No changes for me.
Any other comments or questions? Or I know Commissioner Ford said he's not here today, so I'll see Commissioner Siebert. Is there anybody else? Is Commissioner Siebert up? Okay. I'll send- We'll put this to a vote. All those in favor, please say aye or raise your hand. Passes unanimously. Next item, I wonder if it's worth putting this to the end. Is that okay? But next item is the TPZ budget and draft 2026 meeting schedule. That worth putting to the end, everyone, just to kind of get through business. Okay. So I will. With everybody's consent here, I'll just table it if that's okay. We'll put that to the end just because we have could be busy tonight. We'll see where we are in a little bit.
Chairman,
Yes.
I have a request to put something into the Deals and Communications section of the agenda. I sent the communication to Director Harrigan today. I'd like to add it to the record under Bills and Communications.
And what, I
It
saw
has to do
the,
with the POCD. I'm requesting information that I feel is needed for us to determine, first of all, if we have enough votes, and secondly, if we satisfied statutory notice requirements. But I think we need more information to be able to do that. And it's important enough that I feel like I'd like to have my communication in the record. Public document.
no, because those type of requests really are, you've made the request, I've seen it. We'll get the information.
It's a public, it should be public facing so that the public knows about the request. It should be added into the record. I don't know of any other way to add it into the record.
Well, I don't,
The POC.
I'm not sure that this is the way to handle it either, to be honest with you. So you've made the motion, I mean, you've made the request. I assume it's going to be done because it was done, you made it when, today at some point. We didn't have really a chance to look at it today at all. So let it come up naturally. I mean, I don't understand why, you're gonna put it in the
Well,
record?
I have a list of things that I feel that we should get access to, that we have not had access to in order for us to help determine if we have validly and legally adopted the POCD, which now is in Hartford, by the way. It's been already filed with the Office of Public Policy and Management. And I feel like we might have missed the notice requirement, which is 65 days. And also, we didn't have enough votes. So there's information I think our commission needs, so we can go through that process, figure it out. I think that should be done on the record. It's a public document and it's an important document.
Well, I don't think it's a public document. You've made the request, you're asking to be made public. I think you have said you want some documents to be made. So I don't really understand why that would be done now, but
Was the communication I made to our staff, which I feel should be in the record of this.
all right, I'll tell you what, you make the motion to add it and we'll see if they
I'll
adopt
make
it.
a motion to add my communication to Ms. Harrigan dated October 28th, 2025, to the agenda tonight under administrative session, bills and communications.
There's a second?
Second.
Okay, so
Well, no, hold on. Make the motion, we're not gonna, you can't do it substantively at this point. You made the motion procedurally to put it on the record. So don't start reading it now is my point, so.
I won't start reading it. I'll just explain for discussion why it's important. So I have requested that the town attorney give an opinion on whether we had adequate votes to formally adopt the POCD. In my opinion, we do not. As an attorney of 30 years, I've read the statute 8-23. The statute is quite clear. It's black letter law. I don't see any other way around it. That we required a supermajority of 2/3, meaning 5-2, in order to adopt the POCD. And we only had 4-3. So because the Board of Selectmen did not provide us any endorsement, and that was clear at the last meeting. Ms. Harrigan informed us they did not provide us an endorsement. They might have looked at it, talked about it, don't know. We don't have a lot of that, but we did not get an endorsement. Therefore, that triggered us having to approve with a supermajority. And I believe that that reflects the public policy behind it, which is you need buy-in by the community. And if the Board of Selectmen doesn't buy in, it needs more of us to adopt it. So the second thing is, I realized there's a 65-day notice requirement from the day it gets sent to Board of Selectmen and I believe Town Clerk and MetroCog until the day we have our public hearing. The public hearing was September 9th. It was not posted on the website until July 31st. That is not 65 days, but we don't have a lot of that notice information. So my request was for all the notices that went out, you know, who got what, when, which we don't have. Also, the website no longer has any information about the POCD history about, it's our project, basically. It's fallen off the website. The only thing on there is the purported adopted version, which states on it that it was adopted on October 7th and became effective October 11th. And then I went on the Secretary of Office of Policy and Management's website in Hartford, and it has already been submitted to them. So that's what shows up there. But I do not believe it was validly adopted for probably both reasons, not enough votes and missed a mandatory statutory notice requirement. So I would like to have this added to the agenda so it can be discussed, so we can get this done right now instead of wait any longer. This commission will end. We will have no more meetings after this until after the election. There will be different commissioners on. And I know one of the goals was to have this commission, you know, adopted, but I don't think we did. I don't think we adopted it. And now it's up the state office as if we had.
I'm confused though. I thought your motion was just to make the request on the agenda to make it public. Now you want us to consider everything that you're discussing right now?
That's the reason why I would like to have, this is a public document. It's been a public process since the last POCD, which was in 2016. It's an important document. It guides our town.
That's not my question though. You had said, I thought your motion was to put on your request of documents to make it a public record.
Yeah, my request right here, which I can read if you'll, you know.
I'm trying to understand, is it just that you want to make that a public document or you
Yes.
want to discuss everything you want in
Well, I'm
there?
discussing why it should be made a public document.
Unclear to me. Okay. So it's just to make your request a public document.
Yeah, my request for a legal opinion, which is about a one-page memo, and my request for more information and to restore the history of the POCD project, which is our project, to the town website. There's one other point, it seems trivial, but on October 7th, we made a couple of minor edits that was requested. Well, we didn't do everything, but the Harbor Management Commission had you suggested changes, which we put some of them in, and I don't have any way of knowing exactly what we put in because I can't see the history on the website. So it'd be nice if we could have the website restored to where it was.
Okay, but again, your motion though is just to make your request part of the record.
Yes.
Chair Harrison?
I saw that we got the email request this afternoon. I think we were all copied on it, and it looks like Director Harrigan has already tried to seek some of the information that Commissioner Braun has tried. So I don't, the big deal to put it in the record. Probably a matter of public record because it's interagency conversation or email. So I don't see an issue. If there was a concern about anything with the POC adoption, let's ensure that it was done right. I don't think that anyone would have any issues with that.
You would both agree with me that whether we put this into the record or not, doesn't mean that Ms. Harrigan is not going to give the information that you requested, and we're not going to get the opinion from the town attorney, right?
I think me asking to put it in as a matter of public transparency. This is a transparently public process. And if we have a request to ascertain when notices went out, that should be in the public record.
Well, I mean, there's nothing pending with the POCD at this point, but Commissioner Levy, go ahead.
Yeah, I think what's going on is just an example of why we have an agenda and why we stick to an agenda. This is something that, I became aware of last night. An opinion has been requested of the town attorney, whether or not something belongs in the record. Freedom of information, any member of the public here, anybody in town who would like a copy of Ms. Braun's email, it would be provided pursuant to the Freedom of Information Act. I don't see any reason it needs to be included in the record. It is a public document to the extent that all of our documents and communications, other than when in an executive session with confidential legal matters, all of that is public. In terms of that being black letter law, my 48 years as an attorney, I live in a world of gray. There's no such thing as black letter law. And I'm not so sure that reading the statute, which is written ambiguously as a double negative, is certainly anything but clear. And that's something that can be addressed when and if Commissioner Braun wants to have this matter readdressed on the agenda, or should any member of the public want to file a declaratory action. So I don't see any reason for it being made part of the record at this stage. It's not on the agenda. And I just leave it at that. It's available to the public.
I would just add, it's not per se on the agenda, but I think we're on the agenda point where it's bills and communications.
The
and
motion
bills.
is to add it to the agenda. So
Oh,
that's what-
okay.
That's what the motion is, to add it to the
Oh, I thought it was
agenda.
to add it to the record. I'm sorry.
Well, it has to be added to the agenda in order to be made part of
Okay.
the record. So I mean, this is kind of, it's not what we normally do, and this is really against what we normally handle. Commissioner Levy's right, it is already going to be made, it is a public document, and I don't understand the reason for it myself, but yeah, anybody else, but I think we should just kind of put this to a vote. But Commissioner Corsillo,
An opinion has been sought by, requested by the town attorney. I think it'd be inappropriate to make things public until an opinion is rendered. Up until that point, I think that's just unnecessarily undermines the process. If the attorney renders an opinion that this was, as Commissioner Braun suggested, I think it's fine to make that all part of the record, but until that point, I don't think it makes sense to get into this.
Commissioner Braun, and then let's put it to a
Okay,
vote.
just regarding black letter law, the section is unambiguous and reads as follows. This is.
Well, let's not, we don't need to get into the statute. I mean,
I'm
we-
rebutting
need
what Commissioner Levy
right
said.
now, the motion is to get it on the agenda. I mean, we don't need to be, you don't need to keep going back and forth on that. I mean,
Well, it's been claimed that it is ambiguous. It is not ambiguous. I would like to state that. I would like to just read what the statute says. It says any plan, section of plan, or recommendation of a plan that is not endorsed in the report of the legislative body, or in the case of a municipality for which the legislative body is a town meeting or an RTM by the Board of Selectmen of the municipality, may only be adopted by the commission by a vote of not less than 2/3 of all members of the commission. That to me is quite clear. And this is a public process. We've been bragging about it throughout the whole POCD process, how much the public has been involved. They should be involved in this. I don't know. We didn't adopt this. That's a problem for me. And we need to delve into it and make it a public process. Sunshine is the best disinfectant. Our constituents are entitled to know what we're doing.
you just,
If
you
we
don't,
missed a deadline, if we didn't
I
have.
don't
the
think
votes,
anything we're
it
doing
should
is,
be out in the pu- up-
I don't
out
think
in the-
anything we're doing is in the secret, though. To suggest otherwise, I think is unfair. Last, and let's put it to a vote.
Not endorsed, does that require that they affirmatively fail to endorse it? Or does it mean not endorsed means that they affirmatively rejected it? Be interpreted either way.
I don't think so.
That's why it's gray. Thank you.
Motion is to add this to the agenda. Can we put this to a vote? All those in favor, please say aye. All opposed? Motion fails. Moving on to new applications to recommend a public hearing. How long do we have? I'll call them. Any reason I can't call these en masse? Ms. Harrigan?
Mr. Chair, I just have a typo correction for 264. That should be Fairchild Avenue, not Fairfield Avenue.
Okay.
My apologies.
No, that's okay, but any reason I can't call these in mass or?
No, you can call them all together. That's fine.
So with the correction, 264 Fairchild Avenue. With sections 2A through 2D. 264 Fairchild Avenue. Special exception, 3015 Bronson Road, special exception. 204 Old Post Road, zone change application, 204 Old Post Road, special permit application. May I have a motion for these items? Mr. Harrison,
Make a motion to approve to a public hearing.
thank you. Is there a second? Porcello seconds.
Nothing further to add. I think it's pretty standard that they go to public hearing.
Sure,
Yeah,
Porcello.
very certified.
Anything further? All right, can we put this to a vote? All those in favor, please say aye or raise your hand. Passes unanimously. All right, old business. all. Let's see, is it just the first two before? Zoning regulation amendment, application of Primrose Development LLC for revision to the zoning regulations to add section 5.5.1 Black Rock Agreeable District. Allow the construction of affordable multi-family housing pursuant to section 830G of the Connecticut General Statutes. 4221 Black Rock Turnpike, application of Primrose Development LLC, contract purchaser to rezone the parcel located at 4221 Black Rock Turnpike to the Black Rock Affordable District zone on land presently zoned to as residence AAA. Those are just the two, I think, right?
Yes.
May I have a motion? Commissioner Randolph.
I move that the town planning and zoning commission deny without prejudice the applications for a text amendment and conceptual development plan for 4221 Black Rock Turnpike. I've got this written down.
So can you speak up just a little bit?
I move the town planning zoning commission deny without prejudice the application for a zoning text amendment and conceptual development plan for 4221 Black Rock Turnpike pursuant to Connecticut General Statutes 8-2 and 8-30G subsection G, based upon the following findings and conclusions.
Oh, and it, yeah, I'm sorry, did I not get a second? I
Oh, I'm
apologize.
sorry, yeah.
Is there a second to this?
Second.
Chair Harrison seconds, thank you.
I don't need to start over, do I?
No, please.
No, just
Where
start
we
where
left
you were.
off.
Are there staff comments?
I emailed them.
Right, but they usually read them into the record.
I think based on the length of my staff comments at the last meeting, we had discussed not reading those.
That was just for that meeting. I didn't realize.
Based on the-
Decision permanently.
This agenda is even longer. So I think it was just based on the,
record. Okay.
I think I requested that they be made part of, are there normally in the record, aren't they? Staff comments?
I don't know if they are or if they aren't.
The application seeks a zoning text amendment and conceptual site plan under 830G to begin a multifamily affordable housing development at 4221 Black Rock Turnpike. Submission included the conceptual plan. It does not contain the technical materials ordinarily required for the commission to evaluate potential public health, safety, environmental impacts as contemplated by section 8-2 of the Connecticut General Statute, providing the general zoning authority and goals. That's the what and the why of what we're supposed to be looking at. Our decision in 830G subsection G provides the specific procedural tests how we're supposed to review affordable housing proposals that seek relief from regulation. So we don't have enough of what and why we're looking at. The detail in the staff memorandum dated October 14th, 2025, which was quite detailed. And the interdepartmental reviews incorporated the following required technical materials are missing from the record. So our staff said this is missing. The first one and the most notable one is the updated wetland delineation and ecological assessment. This is a sensitive site and there's no updated information on the wetlands or ecological sensitivity of the site. Grading, drainage, and stormwater management plans consistent with the 2004 Connecticut Stormwater Quality Manual were not present. Stormwater and erosion sedimentation control plan identifying the limits of disturbance and slope stabilization measures was not present. There was not a traffic impact study prepared in accordance with CT-DOT and ITE standards, and there was not a sightline distance and queuing analysis. There was not a fire apparatus access plan demonstrating compliance with the Connecticut Fire Safety Code and IFC Appendix D, including ladder staging areas. There was no utility capacity letters from the Water Pollution Control Authority, public water provider verifying available sewer and water supply. And there were no sealed architectural drawings and landscape drawings sufficient to assess building height, building massing, and buffering adjacent properties in the Merritt Parkway corridor. Departmental reviewers indicated that without these materials, they cannot verify environmental compliance or assess infrastructure capacity and safety, much less the commission. Connecticut's Supreme Court in our own Beach Road, 131 Beach Road, which is Town Planning Zoning Commission, held that a zoning text amendment may qualify as part of 830G only when accompanied by concrete measurable site plans. Um, providing sufficient evidence for the commission to evaluate actual impacts, we don't have that information. Because the present application only provides a conceptual plan without the requisite technical documentation, the commission cannot determine whether the proposal can be implemented without compromising substantial public interests in health, safety, environmental protection, which is the criteria we use to deem whether an 830G is safe or not. So we don't have enough information. Under 830G, subsection G, the how for reviewing affordable housing proposals, the commission must base its decision on substantial evidence in the record, and may deny an application only when necessary to protect substantial public interest in health or safety. The absence of technical materials identified above means that the record does not contain sufficient competent evidence to satisfy the requirement of 8-2 and 8-30G. The commission therefore I'm proposing the commission find that it cannot make the findings required by law on the current record.
Thank you, Commissioner Harrison.
Yeah, thank you. And I do, and I concur with Commissioner Randolph on this. I do want to pass out to the commission and happy to counsel as well. If that's helpful. Hopefully I have enough copies, but if that's okay.
Yeah.
Chairman, thank you. This is a legal opinion that we were given by our
No,
counsel.
Don't give out legal opinions
This-
from our own counsel.
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
Can I read it first?
It's not about this matter.
It's unrelated. Okay.
I don't think this is,
No, don't.
Okay.
don't-
I don't think this is
Okay.
privileged.
Oh, I,
This is a
okay.
general legal opinion about whether a concept review.
Yes.
Okay, I
Privileged
didn't, I
us.
apologize. I'm not a lawyer.
Yes.
For the
Okay.
record, I gave it back.
I'm
I
not-
did not read it.
No.
Okay, sorry, I
No.
We can keep it. It's
Okay.
privileged.
apologies. I'm not a lawyer.
That's okay. That's okay.
I don't think there's anything in here that's, talks about litigation. pending
In
litigation.
any
But
case,
if any legal advice to us is potentially privileged on it. And to the extent that you wanted to potentially make that public, we need to talk about that and
Okay.
have it written differently. That's,
Commission, we would.
It's
No.
information that we need to have because it's the guidance we've been seeking on whether a concept review can be done on an 830G text.
Commissioner Braun, I mean, now's not the time to go over. whether
you know what,
it's privileged or
I
not.
can
mean,
say-
We should not, we can't just be, there may come a time where an attorney's, a town council's opinion needs to be out there. I concur with that. But I am not in the position to make that determination yet, and I don't want it just to be thrown out there and violated privilege unintentionally. I know, don't worry about it. It's just, but I have not even thought that through and had that discussion yet with the town council. I don't know if he's expecting that. We're not ready, we're not in a position for that. Let me put it that way.
Well, can we state our opinion that matches this opinion? Because my opinion matches this opinion. So I'll just read this and make it my opinion then.
Well, you just, again, just,
I would just
gonna
offer
violate the
this.
privilege in
I
that
would just
way.
offer this if I can finish, Mr. Chairman. I understand that and that is taken back and
thank you. No,
apologies.
it's okay. I
And I
just,
think Commissioner Randolph did show some excerpts in his own decision too from this decision, so I don't think it's necessary to read it. It doesn't matter. But that's where I based a lot of my opinion about, again, this is respectfully, this is a concept review, not an actual site plan. And I don't think we're in an appropriate place to have all the technical information to pass it. There's just inadequate detail to make a determination whether the text amendment or the zone change would cause quantifiable harm to the public health and safety and environmental and historic nature of our community. Again, we do have some legal opinions and thoughts about this matter because we had something similar. I'm not going to go in there, but I think it's pretty firm that the court understands, coming from the Beach Road case, that we do have to have a finite application to really show measurable consequences and impact before we can make a decision. In any case, there were some quotes that I want to share from Conservation Director Tim Bishop from the August 22nd letter that he sent us. He says the file is incomplete. It's not acceptable to the Conservation Department. As Commissioner Randolph said, there's no data. There's no soil data. There's no pit holes. There's no wetlands delineation report, no ecological evaluation. No stormwater management plan was provided, no sentiment and erosion control plan for steep slopes were provided. No limit of disturbance of sightlines were provided, no tree inventory was taken. It just really lacks a lot of technical information that we need. This is incomplete and we absolutely have to deny it. Again, apologies for putting that into the
Oh, no, you
record or
didn't, you
trying
didn't,
to,
no, you didn't. Don't worry about it. It's not a big deal.
but I appreciate the consideration.
Thank you. Commissioner Braun.
So I have an opinion that, of course, as well, what Commissioner Randolph and Commissioner Harrison stated, which is the 131 beach case, which is often cited, is a little bit distinguishable. So my opinion is that the court recognized that a commission has to have something concrete before it. On the beach road case, there was a text amendment for a specific property and a specific site plan for that specific property. Here, we don't have a site plan. We have a concept. It's missing a lot of information that we need to determine if this text amendment would cause harm to the environment or to public health or safety. Going on, I believe the Supreme Court understands the difference between having a finite application where you can measure consequences and impact and decide if there's a public health or safety issue versus a conceptual site plan, which is really just a generalized vision. So I believe you need an actual site plan to have a development application. Otherwise, you're approving something that's too amorphous. And then you go into all the missing information that was listed by Commissioner Randolph and Tim Bishop, our conservation director, as well as Commissioner Harrison. The file is basically incomplete. And we not only should not have to make a decision because it's incomplete, we should be able to reject it based on that, even though it is 8-30G. But I believe there is evidence in here that it will cause harm. If you read the Tim Bishop memo, he's pointing out there's likely a vernal pool there. I think that's the one right in the middle of that's being encircled by development. That will destroy that vernal pool. Vernal pools require extra protection. For example, 750 feet for critical terrestrial habitat envelope around those locations. There's a whole bunch of stuff listed in his memo dated August 22nd, which shows actual harm would result. So I agree that it should be denied both legally as well as factually.
Commissioner Levy.
Yeah, I believe the motion was to deny without prejudice, correct?
Yes.
And I share in that. I mean, much of the information that's missing might well show up when an actual site plan and a subsequent 830G site plan approval was sought in connection with the site. But with this particular text amendment, for instance, not only does it provide for front, side, and rear setbacks, but it has a provision for 5 feet from the conservation area. Now, ultimately, of course, the Conservation Commission would weigh in on an actual site plan. But here we're being asked to approve a text amendment with a 5 foot from an existing conservation easement. And as I sit here, based on the information, how could I approve that? Should it be 5 feet, 50 feet, the old 100 feet from an upland review? I don't know. I mean, that's not generally something we would even have in a text amendment. That would show up after they've gone to the Conservation Commission, which would of course have to be done. But to the extent that this proposed text amendment seeks our endorsing such things as that setback, and also even looking at the property and, you know, the ambiguity on the conceptual plan. I mean, it's confusing, but I'm not even sure that I think the construction easement may no longer be valid. That may have expired once the building permit was listed, was approved for Hartford Health. So, you know, that presents a problem where there's a construction easement on the conceptual plan, which at the same time I look at the easement agreements, and it doesn't seem to provide for that continuing beyond the issuance of the easement to parcel A, let alone the problems, you know, proposed by approving a text amendment without sufficient information as to how there would be access, or even there's an existing requirement that parcel A, the Hartford Hospital, maintain plantings along Black Rock Turnpike, how that ties in with this text amendment, with what's out there. I mean, there just isn't enough information. And based upon that, there is no way that I can sit here and say that this text amendment, evaluate whether or not the potential harm from this text amendment is outweighed by the need for affordable housing, because it's impossible for me to evaluate on this record the extent of that harm. So as of this point, I would agree with the motion to deny without prejudice. Leave it to the applicant to flesh it out.
Marcel?
I agree with the motion as well. I think in some ways there are similarities with this application to 1477 Congress, and that would necessitate a similar approach by this commission in terms of providing conditions to address deficiencies. I don't necessarily agree that when it comes to an 830G application for a zoning change, without the actual site plan, that there is the same requirement on the applicant's part to provide all the details that would be required of a site plan. But I think the main issue, in addition to a couple of deficiencies that my fellow commissioners have raised, particularly with regards to the wetlands, the site access, I think that's the issue where there is, I don't see any way around it at all, because the uncontroverted expert evidence on the record regarding site access came from the testimony of Mr. Monteleone, who said that the proposed site access plan is unsafe and poses 100% probability of harm. And to my recollection, Attorney Bellis and his experts did not refute that. The site access plan currently is just not workable. And Attorney Bellis had submitted, I guess, an alternative proposal that attempted to address the deficiencies with the site access plan in the original application. And that proposed alternative is not even possible, because it would require changes to the Hartford Healthcare parking arrangement, which the applicant does not have the ability to impose on an adjacent property. And so, it's just not, there's no site access that is safely achievable on the property. I don't think this commission has the ability to propose an alternative, given that the applicant, when given a chance to present a safe alternative, the applicant was not able to do so either. And so I think even if every other deficiency had supporting facts on their side, or if sufficient evidence was provided for this commission to weigh in on those, it still leaves the issue with site access. You can't have a site that does not have means of access. And the requirements, even though this is a conceptual site plan, in us approving the zoning change, would be that the final site plan would be substantially the same as the conceptual site plan. And so if the conceptual site plan does not allow for access to the site for emergency vehicles and delivery vehicles, and the final site plan would have to be substantially the same, there's no way to reconcile those things. And so that leaves the only option for the applicant to resubmit a new plan that amends the conceptual site plan to show safe site access for emergency vehicles and delivery vehicles. And that does not move into the adjacent property or construction easement, a temporary construction easement, which it appears is no longer permitted. And I think while the applicant is reworking that, it is incumbent on the applicant to also address some of the other deficiencies that my fellow commissioners have raised.
Thank you. Commissioner Siebert, you or me?
Nothing further.
Okay, so I will be supporting the motion as well. It sounds like, and Commissioner Randolph, you'll correct me if I'm wrong, it's not necessarily that you're challenging the fact they came forward with a concept. It's more that it was incomplete in all the ways that were addressed. Good, because that's the sense that I'm I think we've ruled on this issue, I think, in 1477 Congress Street, that a conceptual site plan with regulation amendments, we allowed that to go forward. I think legally that is the correct one, in my humble opinion, considering the statute and the regulation. I'm not sure I believe that Beach Road is on point with that. I think that's a drastically dissimilar case with fact patterns in the holding, but that's fine. To me, the regulations and the statute allow for them to be doing that, which is fine. Creates problems though, as we've seen here in this one. 1477 was all much more straightforward, and more what we're used to seeing is a regular site plan. As far as the building, we made the decision as we did. We made reasonable accommodations to the regulation amendments, regulations, which I thought really strengthened our position and town's position in making sure that that property utilized properly. I'm tempted to do it here with everything that was done previously. But the problem is you have, as Commissioner Porcillo noted, access, that's a problem. And the only reasonable accommodation that was presented to us went on to the neighboring property. That's a problem. The inland wetlands on site creates a problem. And to the applicant's credit, one of the things they put into his regulation amendments, proposed regulation amendments, was that it would be substantially similar to what the concept was. We've seen issues in neighboring towns where you do regulation amendments without a site plan, you give an idea of what it's supposed to be, and then 2 years later, it's something different. So to their credit, they did something that was somewhat fair to us. The problem is, all of a sudden now you come back, potentially, if we did what we did under 1477, and they come back with something different because inland wetlands says they want something shifted. Is it substantially similar if the building is 10 feet off or 50 feet off? Is it 3 buildings instead of 2, or whatever the case may be? And even the access point, I'm not sure if it's substantially similar if we did the reasonable accommodation language. It's a huge site with a lot of variables that I just don't, in this case, without the lack of information that we have, and also the information we do have, the access point, the inland wetlands, potential historical conservancy as well. But mostly, at least for me, the first two, just too many moving parts for a concept that we have at this point to make a fair determination. And if anything, in my opinion, the record shows that it will impair public health, safety, and welfare because of the access point and because of the inland wetlands. So for that reason, I would agree with everything else that's been previously said, at least with respect to the site plan. Again, I believe the concept idea, don't like it. It's come before us, it's causing problems, but I think it is legal nonetheless. Commissioner Harrison?
Yeah, I would just add, and thank you very much for the thoughtful deliberations by my colleagues here. I really do appreciate it. I am just a little frustrated. This is, I think, a very prolific, experienced developer, and I think they should know that we usually have site plans when we make decisions like this, and I'm just frustrated. And I think we're giving you this kind of a gift, another opportunity to come back with a site plan. I don't think we necessarily have to, but
Well,
I
let's be
just,
clear about what I think is happening here, though. And Commissioner Levy, and others can help me out. We're under a moratorium, which is great, and fine. A motion to deny without prejudice means that unless they come back with a modification under 830G sub H, even if we give them a denial without prejudice, they would be subjected to the moratorium until the moratorium ends. That's my understanding of how that's going to shake out. Normally, if we didn't have a moratorium, we do a denial without prejudice because with any other application, normally there's a time frame that they not to resubmit because we made a decision. So I'm not sure the denial without prejudice really, Ms. Harrigan, unless you think otherwise, I'm not sure how effective that really is. We have a moratorium in place unless they file a modification.
Which they have shown that they have done for.
Which
other
they've done before.
applications, so we shall see.
I know Attorney Bellis knows that as well. Commissioner, I mean, that's my understanding, unless anybody thinks otherwise, but I think that's what's gonna happen, which is fine. I mean, I'm not saying that's a problem. I just want everybody to understand that, I think, what is it? 30 days for, or 20 days for the modification?
No, 15.
15. So if they don't come back in 15, they're not likely to come, again, which is fine. I'm not saying, I'm just putting in, so I thought I got the sense that somebody thought they may come back in like 30 days, but I just want that to be clear that with this moratorium in place, unless they come back under modification, they will be, the moratorium will apply to them.
I would just add, I did seek some, I did go through Attorney Pierce today and I did seek, I was hoping that he could be here to help us guide us through this because I wanted some legal opinions. I know many of you are lawyers on this commission. I am not obviously, and I would like to have that guidance. We didn't get it for whatever reason. I was given
Well,
other materials, which is fine, but
He answered your questions and he,
I had more, but.
yeah, I know, but
you
one
know,
day's
and-
worth time is tough for outside counsel.
Right,
litigator.
but so like, it is what it is, but I just hope you do see this as a good faith effort on our part, and I look forward to, seeing
And
an
to the
actual-
extent that everybody I mean, one of the reasons we, last meeting, everybody had, I kind of wanted Attorney Pierce to discuss this with us, and I'll say this in front of everybody. The reason that was brought to Attorney Pierce, and he correctly, said, unless there's a pending application, it can't be done in executive session, meeting in secret. Or counsel, it would be out in the open with us asking him questions, you lose the privilege. Now, there are times where that's applicable, but when I reached out to the commission afterwards to inform that, I thought the idea was to submit questions to him so we could keep confidence, which I thought was important. So nonetheless, here we are. All right,
Thank you.
can we put this to a vote? Motions to deny without prejudice as stated by Commissioner Randolph. Oh,
Maybe one more comment.
no, go ahead.
I would just encourage the applicant to thoroughly read the staff comments, which kind of, I think, went into more detail on some of the deficiencies that the commission just outlined, and in particular, on the site access issue. Staff rightly pointed out that the 830G does not supersede prior approvals on adjacent properties, and so modifications to site access that require modifications to the Hartford Healthcare site plan would require review and approval of the modifications to the Hartford Healthcare site plan prior to the approval of a site plan for the applicant's property. And there's other guidance on the other points that my fellow commissioners raised. So I would encourage you to follow that guidance.
Anything further? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye or raise your hand. Passes unanimously. Thank you. Next item, zoning regulation amendments, application of RRIT LLC to modify, modify section 10.6 to capital B of the design residence district overlay zone to allow the minimum lot size for properties in the design industrial or design business districts to be ½ acre in size within section 10.10 for setbacks for parcels that abut a DBD or DI. Setback shall be the same as the setback for those districts. Modify section 10.12 for coverage and both to omit attached garages below living area from floor area calculation. Provide new standards for sites located on or adjacent to DBD or DI that permit a maximum 30% lot coverage and 60% floor area ratio. I'll let it continues on. 95 Old Post Road goes with this, right? Should I call them all together?
No, that's a separate application.
That's a separate one. Okay, thank you.
So, and I'm just going to provide just very generalized staff comments for this. My apologies. I had sent you staff comments on Sunday. For whatever reason, when I looked at the email, I had sent you 4221 Black Rock Turnpike twice. I don't know that you got the comments on these. In reviewing the smaller design industrial parcels in Fairfield, and in conversations with our economic development director, there is very limited opportunity for light industrial uses to continue in the town of Fairfield. We're just not, an environment where we're going to have much viability for light industrially zoned parcels. So as you've seen over applications over the past couple months, there's increasing desire for rezoning of those parcels to something else, whether it's an adjacent design commercial, whether it's the design residence district application that's in front of you per this application today. And we do have a need to supply middle housing. So in looking at the request that's being made for the limited size parcels that these apply to, these truly are going to be very kind of lightly dense developments that are in keeping with, the recommendations from the Affordable Housing Committee that were a part of the POCD and discussions as part of that document. And the lot coverage and floor area is within a reasonable range for, adjacent design commercial sites as well as design residence sites of this nature, especially given their past design commercial or designed industrial status for the rezone to DRD. With that, in addition, for the streets and roadways request under section 10.15, many of the smaller unit developments that we've seen as a commission have been townhouse style in nature, where there's oftentimes an attached garage or a garage under. And as you'll see if this passes, as you'll see in the coming weeks for what was on the agenda tonight for 204 Old Post Road, which is actually the application that's tied to this requested zoning regulation amendment. That's the style of what is going to be proposed for this as a townhouse with a garage that's attached as part of that unit. And it's sufficient to have a 20-foot wide driveway when you have a development that's less than 10 units. It meets the requirements. It's not a surface parking lot where you have a lot of visitors that are unfamiliar with the environment, who can't make those adequate backup and maneuvers out of a driveway. So we feel that that's sufficient. As you know, the standard considerations for a zone change is the proposal consistent with the plan of conservation and development? Does time, experience, and responsible planning for contemporary or future conditions reasonably indicate the need for the proposed zone change? Have circumstances in the neighborhood changed substantially to warrant requested zone change? Has it been demonstrated that the proposal is warranted and would serve the general health, welfare, and safety of the town? And does the proposed zone change promote a level of development that would serve to protect property values in the neighborhood and enhance the community and accomplish a transition in character between areas of unlike character? Would the proposed zone change permit a level of development that would increase undue traffic congestion? And that's the comments that I had for that one.
May I have a motion, please? Commissioner Corsillo,
Move to approve with a change to the parking requirements, which currently state 2.5 spaces required for each family for properties with 5 units or more, but only 2 per family for properties with 1 to 4 families. I would bring those in line with each other. There are also requirements for visitor spaces on top of that, so I'd simply change the 2.5 to 2 spaces.
yeah, hold on.
Is that in here?
It is in the proposed, it's section 28.6.1.
So just instead of having a
I have that
2
too.
or 2, instead of it being a 2.5, it should be just a 2 in your mind
Correct.
for each family.
And then there are visitor requirements on top of that.
Well, are they the same or what?
I'm not proposing to change that, just
okay.
making a point.
This says 2.5 for each family.
That's right.
That's his
Suggesting we
motion
change
is-
that to 2.
He's making a motion to change.
He's making a motion to adopt with that change.
And could you specify exactly? It's 28.6.1, which currently says,
Which currently says properties with dwelling units for 5 or more families require 2 and 1/2 space for each family. I'm proposing to change that to 2, which is what the current language is in the proposed regulation amendment for properties with dwelling units for 1 to 4 families.
5 or more would only have 2 spaces?
Hold on,
Just
okay,
like
let's get a,
1 to 4 would.
let's get a, is there a second? Commissioner Harrison seconds. Commissioner Corsillo.
I think overall, this is a reasonable change to current requirements. I think we have some of our regulations almost incentivize larger developments rather than middle density housing. I think this overall, these regulation amendments will ease the kinds of restrictions that that tend to incentivize that and open up opportunities for more smaller scale multifamily housing, including townhouses. And I think there's a current mismatch in setback requirements between DRD and design industrial. I think this will bring design residents more in line with design industrial. And I think as the application, as the narrative points out, there are properties where this would allow for new developments to be closer to the industrial, abutting industrial sites rather than existing residential, which I think neighboring existing residential uses and residents would appreciate. And then as far as the proposed change to the parking requirements, I don't see how a person living in an apartment that has a family living in an apartment with 5 units requires any more cars than a family living in an apartment with 4 units. So
Commissioner Harrison.
Yeah, I would just add that I think this, this is a, good positive thing for our supply. But, when we were talking about the POCD and we heard a few of them, we heard from people that they want a diversity of housing in Fairfield. Obviously, we're bulk of single family homes, which is fine. That serves, a very important population, but we also want people to be able to live here. There's not really places for empty nesters. So I think this will be very positive on that supply. And I also think this will encourage more walkable communities, I think, based on what I understand. And I think that's something else that we want. I know I have some cluster homes in my neighborhood and it's really made the neighborhood more walkable, which is good. So glad to see this modest change and I'm happy to support it.
Commissioner Braun.
Do we know how many parcels this would apply to around town? Did we get that information with the application or is that available?
I will defer to Commissioner Randolph, who has actually been studying this issue.
Approximately 12.
Well, do we know where can we list or where are they
I've distributed this before. I can send it to you
on
again.
this application? Or-
No, I've got the analysis done.
I'd like to see where they are because I think in concept, this is a great regulation, although I don't know if I support 2 parking spaces for a family of, for dwelling with 5 or more families, but like a sort of a blanket approval of wherever it could be around town, even if it is only 12, there might be areas where we don't want this, and I don't know where those are. And I'd like to, we don't have to vote on this till December 4th, I guess. Can we get that information to see if we might want to carve anything out? Do these will these come before us for the application?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, special permit,
Yes, but,
correct?
yeah,
And a zone change,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So the DRD is an
Mhm.
overlay zone.
yeah.
So every single application will come before you. And that's where you look at the site specific considerations to determine exactly as I think your concern is.
Mhm.
Are there going to be traffic issues related to where this is located, where a potential driveway might be located? So this doesn't unilaterally allow it. You still have to, for every single request, just like the recommend a public hearing for the application at 204 Old Post Road, that has to
Yeah.
come before you for every single site where somebody would want to apply this regulation.
Can you I'm gonna ask Commissioner Randolph, generally, are these scattered, like there's some up on Bronson Road, or are they all sort of along the Post Road or somewhere? This is Old Post Road.
It's Linwood, it's
Okay.
Old Post Road. There are some very small ones
But at the.
On the
which end of
Post
Old
Road.
Post Road? Like,
in this, actually right in this general area, there's a
Where
couple.
light industrial was at some point,
Yes.
so just think about that.
The
Like,
Jelliff properties, right in Southport. Like that's. So it's, what I will say is that it's historic light industrial that is no longer viable in Fairfield. So there's just these odd little pocket pieces that just weren't converted to commercial in the past.
Kind of like what the proposal for 95 Old Post Road is. It's very similar, I would say.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Pretty straightforward, I thought. Anything but always a positive, because this always fits the idea of we're hitting the wants as far as incentivizing right building in the right areas, and we still keep the control that we want because they have to come to us for a zone change. So I mean, we've seen this before in other instances, and it just seems like an easy one for us. Commissioner Randolph?
I'll be supporting this. This represents orderly planning for the town. For two reasons. One, we have these locations that are in question and are scattered. A lot of people think Stockport is the other project, but they're scattered throughout the area. Really near the train tracks. You don't even know where they are. I've studied this carefully. It's a problem because this current industrial would allow a noxious use, which is something all of you would be in here objecting to. It's by right now to allow a noxious use. So this is good planning that allows a less intensive use in an area that had been zoned for a more intensive use. It also, there's a couple of really nice additions to this, the smaller roadways, and then Commissioner Corsillo's suggestion from 2.5 to 2 parking spaces reduces the impermeable surface in the neighborhood, which you're down in Southport, you're right by the water, and so you don't want to have asphalt because that creates flash flooding and flooding into the harbor. So I'm going to be supporting this because it's good planning and there's less asphalt and it encourages different housing types.
Else, or can we vote? All those in favor, please say aye or raise your hand. Passes unanimously. All right, before we go to the next one, where were we on Station Street? I forget. They're
So
coming,
there
the
was-
applicant is coming back to us with traffic.
Correct.
All right, I'm just looking at the time and I just want to make sure that's,
Well, you do have time on this next item.
I know we have time on both next items and I know this, but the next item might be quick, this Old Post Road one. I'll leave it to the commission and if it's worth doing at least maybe the Old Post Run next, or should we just go to table to public
I
hearing?
like the table to public hearing since we have a lot of members
No,
here.
that's why I see
Yeah.
the time and,
I know you know that, yeah.
all right. And if that's okay with everybody, I'm gonna call the next 4 items together. 95 Old Post Road, application of Metro Holding, 95 Old Post Road, industrial permit application. Zoning regulation amendment modification for 1477 Congress Street, and then 1477 Congress Street modification of Bone Street application. May I have a motion to table those items? Commissioner Harrison?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to table.
Commissioner Siebert, seconds. And we have time on it. We'll see it next time. I think we should be prepared to vote at our next meeting because otherwise, depending on how the election goes, new slate may come in, and I think we sat through it. I think we owe it to vote on it, so to speak, unless something major comes up. So
Well,
please,
We can also decide whether you would like to have a special meeting.
that's true, yeah. I'd like
On the
to,
11th?
Yeah.
Because as I understand, new commission members are sworn in on the 17th, which would mean that our regularly scheduled next meeting occurs after that swearing in.
fair enough.
Is the 11th a Tuesday? So that would be like,
That would be the week after the election.
So
Not next week, but the following.
we have a regular meeting before 17th, I think, right? Or do we
We
not?
do not.
Okay,
We're
well,
back to twice a month, I think. Right?
Once a month in November and December.
it was the 11th. I thought we had a regular meeting on the 11th.
We do not.
No? Okay.
Nope.
All right, well,
No, that's the
Alright.
next year. This,
no, I know, but I thought before we had yeah, all right. I don't think that changes anything. All right, motion is to table those 4 items. Put this to a vote. All those in favor, please say aye or raise your hand. I'll discuss with staff about it. Maybe we can do something quick with these next two. Because I think they'll be fairly quick, and I think we owe it to we heard it, to listen to it, but we can figure that out. All right, moving on to our public hearing, 65 Station Street. I'll call the two items together. C1 and C2 zone change application of SF Station Street LLC to rezone a portion of parcel from residential A to neighborhood design business district. Special permit application pertaining of SF Station Street LLC pertaining to a new 6,842 square feet office building with associated parking, landscape improvements. Good evening, Attorney Russo.
Chairman, members.
So last night we left off, we had your initial presentation. We
Correct.
kind of started public comments, but we needed to reopen your presentation for final traffic, I think at least, and maybe one or two other
Yeah,
things.
lighting was really the,
See Attorney Green, I just want to
Yeah.
make sure that he's on board. Attorney Green, you listening?
this is up. Ours is up, 65 State Street South.
But I'm just saying, last week, I'll say it again, last week we're here. We had his initial presentation. We started with public comments. Reopened for the presentation for some traffic and additional lighting or whatever it
Additional
was.
events, yeah.
We'll finish with that and we'll go back to public comments. I think there were some people that spoke, but
Yes, there were.
I know, but I'm not gonna be able to. Normally I'd have the people who spoke only be limited to the new ones. That's gonna be difficult because I don't
Can I
remember
ask
who it
a-
was. So we'll go back to public comments and see where it goes.
Can I ask a question, a general question not related to the specific application about this matter?
What?
I see there's a protest petition. Do we get an analysis of whether that?
Not as of yet.
I'm sorry. There is a protest petition, but it wasn't didn't meet the 20.
That's being
No, no,
analyzed.
We just don't have that memo for you yet.
Okay, thank you.
Attorney Russo.
Okay, thank you. Chair Commissioners, Chris Russo with Russo LLC, offices at 10 Sesco Hill Road, Fairfield, here on behalf of the applicant for these applications. Just to give, because it's been a little bit of time, just a recap of what the applications are. One is a zone change to eliminate the split zoning on the site. The site is overwhelmingly in the NDBD zone, and but a portion of it is in the residential A. And so we're proposing to make the entire site NDBD. You know, split zoning is generally frowned upon. There's not a town that I work in where you know, they support having split zoning. Your current POCD actually specifically states that this commission review the zoning map to reduce residential, commercial, and industrial split zone properties, and that's what we're doing. The second part of the application is a request to construct an office building on the portion of the lot that's already zoned NDBD. So where the building is proposed is already NDBD. And this building would conform, and I don't know if you remember this point from last time, this building would conform to lot coverage and floor area standards just using the portion of the site that is currently NDBD, not even using the residential A portion. So it's not like by the portion of the site that's residential A being converted then allows a building of this size. That size building would already would satisfy lot coverage and FAR standards. As proposed with the entire site, our proposed lot coverage is below 20%, which is actually not only below the lot coverage of the NDD zone, it's below the coverage maximum for residential A, which is 20%. So it's 19.1. So it's below the residential A standard. And that includes for the FAR. The FAR proposed is 31.4%, which again is not only below the NDBD standard, which is 100%, it's actually below the residential A standard, which is 40%. So it's a very modest building in size in relation to the size of the lot. The reason for the zone change is because one, the lot should be one zone. But also it's for the extension of the parking area. There's already parking spaces that are located in the residential A. This would increase the number of parking spaces that are in that area that's residential A. But again, we're seeking to change the zone to make this conforming under your regulations. So the hearing was left open for a couple of reasons. The first I'll touch on is lighting. We did submit lighting fixtures, and we have our architect is on the line. If you have questions for him with regarding to lighting, but we did show the fixtures that are proposed to be on the building, which includes these wall lanterns and also includes some security lighting. The one caveat I'll tell you with that though is that this has to be reviewed by Historic District Commission.
yes.
So it's possible that
Just hold on
HDC.
one second.
Oh, it's a
I'm
problem.
just gonna move the chair.
Oh, the chair. Oh,
Yeah.
sorry. So they can see. You can also have somebody hold this up higher if they want.
Chris, Attorney Russo, why don't you move that in front of it, move the desk back and move that in front, the easel.
Sure.
Hold on.
Mr. Mullen, do we have that?
Oh, if we have it being shared, we should go through that. I'm sorry.
All right, that's not working. Hang on a minute.
All right,
We're
so
also on Zoom, so we can, my office can put it up. So yeah, so these wall lanterns and the lighting would.
Wait until he gets caught up there, so.
Sure. Yeah, no problem.
See what's.
go ahead.
I just had a question, Mr. Russo. You had mentioned that the lighting fixtures had not gone through the Historic District Commission. I know that you're probably waiting for our approval, but is there a reason?
Historic District Commission requires, in order to submit, they be approved by planning and zoning, and then you go. So we can't go to historic first. So, but the thing I will say is, even if they said, we want you to change the style of the wall lantern, we would still be restricted by your standards of it being dark sky compliant. So whatever lantern they choose, it's got to be dark sky compliant to conform to your regulations. But I wanted to put that in there because we're showing these lanterns and sconces, but again, HDC has purview over those. And then we've submitted a photometric plan to show it. What you can see too is by placing this building where we have as far away from the residential neighbors as we can, there's no, it doesn't even extend that far to get towards the residential neighbors. Plus, historic, generally, as a principle that I've been before that doesn't favor a lot of lighting, so it's going to be a limited amount of lighting.
Let's let him get through the lighting first.
So that's the lighting and the plans up there.
Question on lighting, Commissioner Braun?
Well, it had to do with the vegetative buffer. Could you just point out the lighting plan again? Last time we were here, I'm trying to remember. I think it was August.
No, September. Yeah, beginning of September.
You talked a little bit about the trees that would be between the houses and the new development. Could you just point that out on the plan in relation to the lighting?
Right, so this area, it's a good plan to show, actually.
Because this is the
There's a couple plans that I think are important to show with regards to that. Okay. Sorry, John, I'm gonna jump around here. Yeah, so it's still
Buffer.
somewhat, related to lighting. So what you can see on the site plan is it's a lighter shading is basically the extent of the existing parking area.
So you're
Highlighting,
marking-
I'm trying to light it, it's a mark it up here.
So you're showing where the added
So,
parking would end up.
yeah, so what you can see is what's happening in what we'll call the residential A portion of the lot is these spaces that are here in blue are getting flattened out along the line. And then there's some spaces added here, and then there's spaces here that are being added. And then the other additional spaces are up here, and they're already in the NDBD. Like that's already zoned NDBD. So really all that's happening in this residential A portion, yeah, that's good. Yep. is because these are existing spaces, they're getting flattened down to go online and then add these additional spaces and then these spaces here. There's a mature vegetated area
That's that rectangle.
that's right here
Yeah, okay.
that we're proposing to remain. And I think it's important to look at. There's an aerial we had submitted. Because what you can see is. Here's the end of those spaces. But what you can see is that this is lawn right here, just a little bit beyond it. So it's putting those spaces essentially where there's lawn. And then there's a lawn area around here as well. So, but there's this mature tree buffer area that exists that we're proposing to retain. And one of the things looking at it, because I understand the concern of the neighbors. And by changing the zone, that it may allow, even though that's not proposed in this development, that for some reason in the future, somebody could go and develop this area to where the setbacks allow. So what I think we could propose as a condition of approval is for this area in what's the southwest corner to go under conservation easement. And that way the neighbors would know that it would be preserved. I mean, frankly, if somebody changed the zone, if somebody decided I'm gonna not, 15, 20 years from now decided I'm gonna knock everything down, it would still preserve this area. Which I think more so than anything would achieve kind of the buffer that the neighbors would want here and just to be assured about. So, but I also, and again, it would remain, which would provide buffering to the lighting that is proposed on the building, which would have to be dark sky.
Thank you. You can move on. No questions from the public yet. Sorry.
We couldn't see what you were. Sir, it's not the time. There, after I go, there'll be,
Why don't you just point out where you're talking about with the buffer? at least?
So this is
So
right
hold
here.
it up,
This
just
is-
hold it up and show them what you're saying about the CO.
So this area, these are the parking
Just point
spaces
out-
that are be flattened out and extended. This is the area here. Which could be preserved in a conservation easement,
So that entire corner,
which would ensure,
that green corner is what you're talking about.
correct,
Thank you. Move on, please, just because I want things moving.
and that'd be something in perpetuity. Yep.
Okay, Commissioner Siebert, then Randolph.
Yeah, I just want to confirm. So that red building abuts the Southport train station.
There's a few of them.
I'm looking at this correctly.
Here, you know what? Let me break up the rendering because the rendering shows it well. Yep. There's the existing building that's on the corner.
Right.
And then there's this one in the middle that's existing. And this is the proposed building.
So there, are you able to put trees up in that section that abuts the Southport train station if I'm looking at this correctly?
Along here.
Yeah.
So that area is owned by the town. I believe it's the town or it's the state, but it's not, there's a gap there. Which again, we'd be happy to work with the town, but there's this, yeah, you can see it here better.
Yeah.
There's a gap here between our property line and here, where this is the pavement right here. So there's a gap there that we don't own that. And it's pretty tight for those, like you could see the existing building here. That's right on the line and there's a little bit here. So we could add some landscaping here.
Yeah.
But this area we don't control. We'd be happy to work with the town on it. Because I know there were some comments about it being cleaned up. And it could use some cleaning up. But we would have to work with the tree warden, I believe, and the tree warden would have to sign off on that. But I mean, here we have little room. Here we could add more plantings.
Commissioner Randolph.
So are we talking about landscaping and lighting or just?
Well, I
landscaping
was-
or Parking, landscaping and lighting?
I think landscaping, lighting, our architect's on if you have questions for him.
So for lighting, you said it's gonna be dark sky compliant.
Correct.
Your fixture cuts are not dark sky compliant.
But they have, I mean, David, I think David Ball's on, but I think they have
David Balls, what was it?
Ball.
Ball, excuse me.
Should be on the line.
I'll get to my second question. Is there, I couldn't find in the submission, what trees are being removed?
So I think some of that we won't know until we get into site development for sure. But what I do have is a landscape plan.
I've got the landscape plan. Is there another plan that shows the trees being removed?
No, specifically showing which ones are being removed. No, and again, I don't know if we will know definitively which trees will need to be removed until we're out there, and actually into site development. We'd be happy to replace, any trees that are removed during the course of development.
Is your landscape architect available or your architect to address this question? Because I'm not.
He's promoted. He can unmute himself now.
Okay, if David's on.
Well, I'm on, so what, if you don't mind,
Yeah,
Repeating the question.
I'll give you the easy question first. The catalog cuts that you provided for the lighting, Attorney Russo said that they would be dark sky compliant. Those, I just checked them, those lights are not dark sky compliant. Can you assure us that they will be dark sky compliant?
yes, the original catalog cut we provided you matched the existing lighting on this, on the site of the other buildings, and we will replace that with a dark sky compliant light fixture.
Okay. And then, so my second question is relating to landscaping. Is there, normally we see plans that show the existing trees, and I believe there's a mature tops of trees there. Is there not?
There is at that southwest corner.
Yeah. So can you estimate how many trees will be removed?
My understanding is it's a total of 3 trees with about 4 or 5 to remain. And then that area of the southwest corner, we would populate with additional trees, including evergreens.
So, the trees that are being removed, are they mature trees?
Yes,
And they'll be replaced with it, similar proportion, just one for one? How are you gonna replace the trees?
what we're currently showing is a total of 8 trees, but the mature trees, I can't say we'd replace them with equal caliper, but certainly we could work with you on that.
I would make that request that, because my quick view of this is that the trees that are being removed are quite mature, and lend unique character to the neighborhood, and replacing them with, small trees is, gonna be insufficient.
We'd be happy to accept a condition of approval to have our landscape plan reviewed by the tree warden, work with him on that placement of trees. And also the area that, along the, closest to the train tracks.
About parking separately?
Let's let him go.
Well, so that's in on the new evidence regarding the landscaping and lighting. I was gonna go to traffic next.
Go ahead.
If Neil, if you're on, so we have Neil Alinsky, who did review of the development. He prepared a letter which I submitted in to the record. Neil could go over his findings.
Hey, Neil is on the co-host, he can unmute himself.
Good evening. Can you hear me? Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Excellent. Alrighty, for the record, Neil Owinski with SLR Consulting. We were asked to come on and do a little traffic review letter for this development. And we did that work. I'm gonna share my screen, I think, just to show an aerial view. Okay, let's see here. All right, so the development, as you know, it's 65 Station Street. It's back here. It's going to utilize an existing driveway to Station Street. Station Street sort of loops around, connects to Pequot Avenue at a couple spots, really Station Street east and the west junction over here. It also connects up towards Spruce Street and John Street. Now, the development itself is going to be rather small. I think it's around 6,800 square feet of proposed office space. The location is quite good from a development standpoint. It's near the train station, as everybody knows, near Southport Village. So I guess you could look at it like it's a pretty good infill transit-oriented development of sorts. When we look at the amount of new traffic that it could be estimated to generate, based on statistics such as those that are published by the Institute of Transportation Engineers, during an individual peak hour, we're only looking at this development generating around 9 to 12 total vehicle trips during an individual peak hour. It's not a whole heck of a lot of new traffic. It's really all around maybe one new trip every, say, 5 minutes if you were to spread it out over the course of an hour. Really, it's not a whole lot of vehicle traffic. Based on its small amount of new vehicle traffic, really don't anticipate it's going to have a traffic impact from a traffic flow standpoint or anything like that. Dave Sullivan from our office, he did a field visit on September 25th. And the one thing we do note in the report is we noticed there are some areas of reduced visibility, not at the site driveway itself, but down at Station Street, really the west junction at Pequot Avenue. So we put in our report some considerations for the town to consider. Really what I'm talking about most specifically as related to, I mean, the new traffic that's going to come in and go from this development is probably going to come directly up and down Station Street, the west junction at Pequot Ave. When you're at the Station Street stop sign approach to Pequot Ave, looking to the right due to the curvature of Pequot Ave, it's really short. It's a pre-existing condition. We didn't really notice any crash history there, but it did pop out in our field visit. When we see something, we tend to say something. So we threw in some suggestions for consideration. I wouldn't say they're necessarily mitigation for this development, but a couple of things that could be considered, for example, is perhaps making Station Street one way on just this leg, so you wouldn't have people exiting here. You could also make it right out only, so folks would only have to look to the left to take a right out here and not have to look to see eastbound approaching traffic. You could also stripe a shoulder line on Pequot Avenue, which would help folks kind of, if you were to keep it two-way, edge out, so to speak, a little bit more and be able to get a little bit further out and thus extend their sight line. So again, I want to make it clear though, you know, this development isn't really creating or even anticipated to exacerbate any of these visibility conditions. But we noticed them, so we put them in the letter nonetheless for consideration. They're really all low-cost kind of things that the town could consider. But, you know, when you just look at this development, it's a very small infill development. It's not going to have a lot of new traffic. Not anticipating it to have any traffic impacts. And that's pretty much it from our review. I'd be more than happy to try to answer any questions if there are any.
Commissioner Braun?
Could you go through those? I'm looking at your report. You talked about some improvements based on the current situation of visibility issues and reduced visibility looking to the right from Station Street to Pequot to the curvature of Pequot. Fairfield, the town should consider making Station Street one way. or consider prohibiting left turns from station onto Pequot. Also shoulder lines should be, so all these town improvements, that would not necessarily be done, right? That would be up to the town to do that. Wouldn't be part of this application.
No, it'd be up to really the police commission, I think would be the one who would have to.
And
Sign off on
if,
It would have
if,
to be addressed with them. Mhm.
so if this gets approved, those might never be done, and then you'll have that problem with the added the 15 vehicles coming in and out at peak, although then you gave them a TOD credit of from 9 to 12, but either way, you are adding traffic. And then if the town did make Station Street one way, how would that affect the existing people that live there or the existing traffic pattern? How would that affect people that traverse that all the time, especially people that live in that area? Could you just point that out,
Yeah, it would have very minimal impact.
Show where-
Quantifying it is probably not even worth it, but
I'm
like,
not that familiar with that neighborhood. Could you just show
So
where-
that, so
where that
what he's,
curvature is.
yeah, he's pointing to Station Street West there. And what he's
Right.
saying, thinking northbound, which means it would head be one way from Pequot Avenue.
What about all
So Pequot on there?
towards the station. Mhm.
Pequot goes up and down to the right.
Ladies and gentlemen, please, I mean, every time we have muttering, it confuses the record a little bit, and it's a little distracting too, so you'll have your
So
time, don't
what-
worry.
What he's talking about here, the reduced visibility looking to the right from Station Street, the right southwest from Station Street west approach to Pequot. Could you show where that is based on the curvature of?
Mhm.
Yeah, that line. There you go.
So this point right here would be the point of eye,
Where's
the point of someone's eye. Can you see my cursor here?
Oh, okay. And where's Pequot?
That
Pequot
is,
Avenue is the main thoroughfare here,
And where's the curvature they're talking about?
right here.
And where's the egress that we're talking about?
Egressing out of Station Street, southbound or
Where
southeast.
would the one way be then?
One way would be to make it the other way, so you would not egress out of here. You would have to egress out here, 1 block away, or go up through John and Spruce Street under the railroad tracks.
I'm sorry, I don't understand.
Well, let me,
Which way is
hold
gonna
on.
be
If
one
I
way?
can jump in quickly. I mean, these are recommendations that don't, do they, in your mind, affect the site?
No, not really.
Affects the safety, right?
no, because it doesn't have to do with the development of the site. Again, the site's using the same driveway that exists now. So it's not impacting the site. What SLR's doing, Neil's saying is that they went out and made observations and that these are some suggestions that they would note to the town that wouldn't be a bad idea. I mean, the thing in the report that I'll point out, that's in Neil's report, is that he looked at for, I think it was the past 3 years, right, Neil? And looked at that
Mhm.
space from Station Street to Pequot Court, which you can't see because the box is there, but that's Pequot Court right up there. If I was taller, I could point to it. But in that area, there were no crashes observed in that area. So
Correct.
it is something he's suggesting.
Let's just not go down a.
No, I know.
I'm just trying to understand where the one way would be and how that would affect other people, since that is a suggestion that would improve.
He's not, but that's the point. I don't,
Well,
I'm
I'd
not
like to-
surprised he
can I
put
get
it
an
in the
answer?
record. I mean,
What it
it's
would
not
need,
part of the application or the suggestion for the
That's my
traffic.
question that I'd like to.
I think what you're saying is just though, if
I'd like to
you,
get the public
if your
comments.
driveway came out here, you would go up and then around, because Station Street loops around, and you would come out on that eastern, see where Station Street is, where you see Boat Fix and the United States Postal Service, and come out there where the sight lines are better.
Did you see this came in verbally?
Correct.
Other questions on traffic?
Well, the reason I asked is it's in the traffic report as a suggestion based on reduced visibility. So to me, that sounds like a safety issue, but they're trying to rectify.
But it's not related to the site development. The site development is using the same driveway. And we're not changing the sight lines on the driveway. We're not doing anything with regards to that. But just in their observation, in their expert opinion, taking a look at things, they put it in there as suggestions that frankly, you could probably refer their report over to the police commission and have them consider. But that's a whole separate thing. But with regards to the site, it's not being proposed as mitigation. because the site's, I mean, barely producing traffic. So, yeah.
Thank you.
All right, moving on.
So was there any other questions for traffic or?
Not for traffic.
Okay, well, that's the end of the additional evidence.
Commissioner Randolph, you had a quick question on parking? You want
Yes.
to wait till rebuttal?
I'll wait till rebuttal.
Okay,
Sure. That's the conclusion of our.
thank you. All right, so that ends the public, excuse me, the initial presentation portion of the application. Move it open to, Attorney Russo, just grab your stuff too.
Okay, sure.
Move it open to public comments. Attorney Green, I think you were the last one. How do you want to continue and move forward, or? I would like, I know we have members of the public that wish to be heard. Do you want to start?
Happy to start, or I'm happy to defer, whatever the chair would
Why
like.
don't we start with your prepared comments? Then we open it up to the public, kind of set the tone. To any member of the public wishing to be heard on this that's joining us remotely, please sign in the chat feature. We need to identify you in order to allow you to speak. So please sign in the chat function.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, staff, public. My name is Joel Green. I practice law in Bridgeport with the law offices of Green and Gross. And once again, it's a pleasure to appear before the commission tonight on behalf of several residents. Does the chair want me to go through them again, or I went through them at my initial?
We went through them already. That's fine.
Great.
Thank you.
So I have a number of comments to offer. We're going to try to move along quickly tonight. I think it would really set the table for our remarks. Representative here this evening from the Sasquatch Conservancy for Southport. I would like to just have a letter read into the record. And just to put that in context, I represent several residents who live in the area. I also.
Submitted already?
It has been submitted. It's relatively brief, but I think it would be productive to put that into the record, just to emphasize that not only do I represent several individuals, I represent the Southport Congregational Church. I represent the Sasquatch Conservancy, which, as the commission is aware, is a recent merger. The point is, there is a vast collection of different interests in the community who are joined in having deep concerns, deep issues with this application. And you can see folks here tonight, but Sasquatch Conservancy represents hundreds and hundreds of households in the area. And I think it would be beneficial to have this read into the record right now.
Just read it.
Sure.
This was, I'm Bob Svensk. I'm a member of the Sasquatch Conservancy. I've been on the Conservancy for 25 years and have lived in Southport for 31. An objection was submitted to you folks back in August, and what I will simply do today is recap some of the points that we made in that letter. We are confirming our opposition to the two zoning application changes. And we have reviewed the plans with the attorneys for the project. And I would note that this is at least the fourth proposal for development of this site in the past 7 years, all of which have been objected to. I think two of them have landed up here and two of them never quite made it. The point is that this location lies in the heart of our village. It occupies a prominent site. It's highly visible to anybody coming in and out on the trains. The scale of the building dominate the historic Congregational Church. It will dominate the old train station, and it will basically take up a lot of space with the whole parking area for the trains, which we haven't even really discussed, right? There's a lot of people that are there already. The residential area adjacent to the train station is now buffered from the 65th Street building. And the area currently zoned as residential is requested to be converted into a neighborhood design business district that has reduced setbacks and a range of potential permitted uses that would ultimately maybe not be appropriate for our historic village. The proposed change from a residential to neighborhood design business district sets a dangerous precedent for the village and for other historic parts of Fairfield, not just Southport, but other historic districts that may be subject to the same problem in terms of developments that change the historic character of the town and the integrity of the village itself. The development, whatever, we don't have many charts to show, but it will add significant more parking. It will produce more traffic that's already there, given the fact that we do have a train station that people come and go, and putting one-way streets in is just like, you know, I don't know where they got on that one. But anyway, but we represent or I'm representing the Board of Trustees that we're advocating for all our neighbors adjacent to this station, including a lot of the people who live right next door to it and will be grossly affected by this. And we strongly object to a change in the zoning because I think it will completely impair the integrity of our village and the historic district that it lives in. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Okay, so unlike so many of the applications that the commission has seen over the past year, where the commission, in terms of granting applications that required the commission to act or limited the ability of the commission to act in certain ways or to sort of exercise better planning, this application presents a pure application in terms of rezoning a portion of the property, and the commission has wide discretion here. So the commission can do the right thing, and we are here to ask the commission to do the right thing in denying this application. Why would you grant this application? The only reasons to grant the application is because this owner wants to intensify the use of this property. And the applicant keeps throwing out this claim that we're eliminating a split zoned property and that somehow that's some important principle in the plan of conservation and development. Now, admittedly, that has been expressed, and in many instances, it does make sense to eliminate split zone properties, but not in this instance. And the applicant used the phrase that those sorts of properties are frowned upon. But the big point is there's no mandate, there's no requirement. And in the exercise of the planning function of this commission, you don't have to do it, and you shouldn't do it where it's not called for. So, and I have to make one other comment. It strikes me that tonight at the 11:59 for purposes of this application, which as I understand it has to close by the 30th. Is that where we are? It's got to close soon. But the point is the applicant comes in and suddenly the applicant is offering conservation easements, offering to change their lighting, offering landscaping concessions. And it's sort of hard for this public. And we read what's up on the site. We read what the applicant is proposing and we respond to it. So I would urge the commission not to get involved in this 11th hour bartering that this applicant is proposing as it sits here. So
I would think, I mean, the landscaping, I remember him talking about last time, but I would think that the conservation easement would be a positive.
I'm not sure it's that simple. and I'll get into it. But
Okay, I mean, I
not
just,
having, not
it's not
having,
unusual, it's not unusual for applicants to be making those suggestions either now, rebuttal, or things like that. I mean, it's not outside the norm, what we've seen, and it
I
is,
would-
it seems like a positive.
I would suggest it's outside the norm at the very end of a public hearing to be offering conservation easements. And it's sort of a prayer here, I think, because this application is flawed, and I'll get into it. First of all, as you've heard so many times, this is a historic property in a historic district. It is located in the heart of the Southport Historic District. Several homes surrounding it were built in the 1890s. Some of those houses that are just south of it were built in the 1890s. The Southport Congregational Church was dedicated in 1876. The buildings on the property were built 125 years ago and 75 years ago on this site. And one of the great principles that I've seen in the former POCD and the new POCD is sort of this objective of preserving the historic character of neighborhoods. You express that in the POCD that you just adopted. It was expressed in the 2016 POCD, and it's something that we've always done in Fairfield. And this is obviously counter to that, where you are intensifying the use of this property in, once again, the heart of a historic district.
But the argument though, is it the intensifying the density, or is there an issue? Let me just ask this, is there an issue with the architecture as far as how it affects the historic
There's
district?
issues with all of it.
That's what I want, I mean,
There's issues with all of it.
Okay.
You're adding another building on the site. I can't comment on I don't have an architect to comment on the consistency.
That's
of
what I
the
wanna
site.
understand.
And
Just wanna-
that's not really something that this commission would take up in terms of the map amendment. And I suppose special permit directly, but the property has been split zoned for decades. It's been split zoned for decades. It has existed this way, and there is a purpose to it. The purpose is that it does create this buffer. And you'll hear more about it tonight, but it creates a buffer between commercial uses and residential uses. And the problem with the text amendment, the map amendment, is it creates an opportunity and flexibility for commercial development. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but down the track, it creates that opportunity by making it all neighborhood design business district. And that is the great fear of this neighborhood, because it represents the beginning, I suppose the beginning of commercial creep on this property that hasn't existed for 100 years. And that's a little bit inaccurate, because when the applicant speaks to the fact that there's parking in the A zone, my recollection from past applications is the applicant repaved the lot and sort of snuck in some spaces that are technically not legally existing, but they do exist in the Residence A zone. The residentially zoned portion does create this natural buffer for the residential homes behind it. There are environmental concerns, and as many people in the community recognize, this was an industrial site when Sturm Ruger began using it 75 years ago for manufacturing firearms there, right there. And that really has not been I would say unearthed to our satisfaction, and it's not something that we can address directly, not having the right to investigate that property. By rezoning it, you are opening the door to building height allowances that expand the use in a Residence A zone. You expand the potential for coverage. And on the issue of traffic, it is interesting to me that you have sort of a half traffic study. There was no level of service analysis. That there was not really a speed study done. And the traffic study actually acknowledges that there are these problems in the community. And people in this community will tell you that there's a traffic problem. And it always, I've said this to this commission many times. I have never seen a project where the traffic consultant for the developer comes in and says this will create traffic problems. Everyone says that the increment won't create any change in the level of service. And yet, in so many places in our town where we've seen development, you sit in traffic, in long lines of traffic with all of these projects that weren't going to incrementally increase traffic. Here you have a neighborhood that has a traffic problem, particularly at rush hour in the morning. It's interesting to me that the traffic consultant kind of created this incomplete traffic study, but also starts suddenly offering these solutions to the commission, things that could be done, which signals very clearly that there's a problem in the neighborhood. So these are the kinds of things that this commission should be considering in declining to sort of allow an intensification of use where you know, and the applicant is even signaling in this case that there is a traffic problem on the site. So there are also stormwater issues with the application that I'll get into shortly. But the point is, you have this application and you have this discretion, and it must be of some significance to the commission that you have the community organization Sasquatch, you have a church community that comes out against a development, and you have this many residents who live around and in this neighborhood. And I suppose this would be a good moment for all the reasons I've stated to ask anyone who shares any one of these reasons in opposing this application to stand, and maybe we can save a few minutes on public comment. But I would ask anyone opposed to this application to stand for any of the reasons that I've identified. Oh. Here's the room. We can if you'd like, but this is the room.
No, I
And
gathered as
everyone
much.
has come out, and they've come out several times for this application because they're deeply concerned. And it's got to tell you that this application presents problems for this community, and that this community is trying to hold the line on any further development that impacts the quality of life in this community. Thank you. So once again, the sort of these general arguments deal with intensification of use and overdevelopment, nuisance, light, noise, intensity, overdevelopment and scale, potential environmental issues, general overdevelopment and commercialization concerns, and impacts on the historic district. Now, sort of getting into the technical nitty-gritty things, I have Steve Trinkus of Trinkus Engineering. I know the commission is familiar with Mr. Trinkus. Mr. Trinkus, are you there?
I'm muted.
Yes, I'm here now.
And Mr. Trinkus, can you just briefly, for the record, tell the commission a little bit about your education, training, and experience?
Yes, Steve Trinkus for the record. I'm a licensed professional engineer in Connecticut since 1988. I've got a Bachelor of Science in Forestry from the University of New Hampshire, and an expert in low impact development, which is a focus on obviously stormwater, but particularly runoff volumes and water quality aspects of runoff.
And are you familiar with the 2024 Department of Energy and Environmental Protection stormwater guidelines and the stormwater
Yes.
quality manual specifically?
Yes.
And are you familiar with chapter 10 of that? And for the commission's benefit, I did submit the stormwater manual into the record. You're familiar with chapter 10?
Yes.
Deals with general design for stormwater infiltration systems.
Yes, I am.
And at my request, did you review the site and specifically the stormwater proposed by the applicant for the site?
Yes, I did.
And what did you observe with respect to, well, first of all, can you generally describe the stormwater treatment that the applicant has proposed?
Yeah, there's actually very minimal treatment. There's a couple catch basins Then the runoff is directed to an underground gallery system of 24-inch high galleries. The roof drains are connected right to the gallery system. Catch basins do minimal water quality treatment. The underground gallery system, because pollutants come both as particulate and soluble, and many applicants hang their hat on a line within the stormwater quality manual that simply says if you provide the water quality volume, it is assumed that the pollutant load reductions that DEP specifies in the manual will be met. And that statement is not in effect because pollutants that come in a soluble form pass right through the soil. There is no treatment of them. So then you're getting pollutants into, the groundwater on the site.
And where are those,
so-
Mr. Trinkus, this is a 54-car parking lot. Where do the pollutants come from specifically?
Well, on the building roof, actually, let's start with that. You're getting 40% of the nutrient loads, nitrogen, phosphorus via atmospheric deposition. It simply falls on the roof, during the day and night. And when it rains, it gets washed off. The parking lot, you get zinc from both the brakes and from the exhaust. Hydrocarbons are, little oil drops. I mean, maybe a pinky nail size, but over a big parking lot, a few drops here and there add up. And when you get the initial rainstorm, that initial what we call first flush, which is the first inch of runoff based on 1.3 inches of rain, that's the dirtiest water, and that will be going into this underground gallery system with little to no treatment. So now you're putting the pollutants basically into the groundwater on the site. And it's also important to note that the federal MS4 permit, which is municipal stormwater permit, it comes out of EPA, but it's given to DEP, and then DEP has administered it to all 169 towns. And the whole purpose of the MS4 permit is to address water quality from both existing impervious cover in the community by retrofitting roadways or parking lots, but also the requirement is to, when you approve new development projects, is to ensure that you are addressing water quality because that's the driver under the MS4 permit.
So, Mr. Trinkus, in section 10, chapter 10 of the Stormwater Manual, it explicitly states that such systems, again, underground infiltration gallery systems, must include pre-treatment. And for example, in the manual, it identifies sediment forebays, deep sump catch basins, proprietary separators, vegetated swales prior to discharge into this underground structures. In this case, did the applicant provide any of those systems?
You only have, I believe, standard catch basins with a 24-inch deep sump. That will provide about 5% total suspended solid reduction. If it's a 48-inch deep sump with a hooded outlet, you'll get about 9% total suspended solids and maybe around 20% of hydrocarbons because they will float on top of the water column. But catch basins provide minimal treatment of the runoff, and that's the only treatment that we have here.
And chapter 13 indicates that all underground systems, including chamber galleries or deep well infiltration setups, require pre-treatment upstream. Once again, there is no pre-treatment, effective pre-treatment in this case.
That is correct.
And again, pre-treatment is an essential component in both chapter 8 and chapter 6 of the manual. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
So in your professional opinion, does the stormwater system on the site that is proposed comply with the DEEP 2024 Stormwater Quality Manual?
In my professional opinion, it does not.
And again, specifically because it lacks effective treatment for the pollutants that will be presented in this instance, correct?
That is correct.
Ms. Harrigan, did our town engineer review these plans? Do we have an opinion from him yet? For her?
We did get comments regarding traffic and I think,
Excuse me, could you speak up a little bit? I can't hear.
sorry, we did get comments very late today regarding traffic. I believe that we had comments, we did have comments from Anthony, no?
Let's check that.
Yeah, we'll double check it.
We need to, as usual, get comments from our town engineer.
Do you have any questions for Mr. Trent?
I don't know. Commissioner Braun,
I have a question. So does Fairfield follow the stormwater manual?
It does.
Maybe that's for you, yeah.
It does, yes, in the regulations.
So this,
wait a minute, our town, what regulations have the 2024 storm management?
What regulations?
What regulations are you referring to that the town has adopted that water quality?
In my recollection, not having it in front of me, but I am certain that it is referenced in the specs for parking lots, that parking lot stormwater systems must comply with the deep stormwater quality manual. I can get you the section if you
No,
like.
that's fine. I just was under the impression, I mean, we certainly not in our regulations. So
Not as of yet, no.
I don't know where else.
Yeah, not the most updated one. Not as of yet.
Are you talking about our regulations, Mr. Green, Attorney Green, or?
Well, this application was filed under the previously existing regulations, not under the new regulation.
well, we haven't changed our TPZ zoning regulations don't even, we don't have a specific.
No, we don't. That's
an
why I'm,
engineering, that's an engineering,
I know, that's what I'm trying to kind of figure out is, and Attorney Green, we can get that from you later, I guess, because I was under the impression that certainly our zoning regulations don't specify, did not adopt the stormwater management manual twenty
So
twenty-four.
I have a follow-up question. So whether we follow the stormwater manual or don't in our engineering department, is it advisable that we do follow the stormwater requirements in order to have a viable application when you're adding impervious surface? I guess that's a question for Mr. Trinkhouse.
I believe that the zoning regulations require compliance
Okay.
with the stormwater quality manual, and if you give me 1 minute.
I believe it references the prior stormwater manual and it hasn't been updated for the most up to date.
This is Steve Trinkus, if I could interject. Actually, even with the 04 manual, pre-treatment was required prior to infiltration practices, so that requirement has not changed. And also, whether the stormwater manual is referenced in the municipal regulations, it's the obligation of the design professional to follow the approach in the stormwater quality manual to design systems that address water quality, even if the municipal regulations, do not specifically say you have to. It's the engineer's obligation to address those particular issues.
Okay, so section 2810 says construction, require design with DEP stormwater quality manual and encourage low impact development, LID techniques. All off-street parking and loading spaces shall be suitably improved, graded, striped, and marked, stabilized, and maintained so as to cause no nuisance or danger from dust or from stormwater flow onto any public street or adjacent property. Drainage designs must meet all requirements of the Connecticut Deep 2004 Stormwater Quality Manual or any amendment thereto, which is the 2024, with respect to stormwater treatment and attenuation. By the way, Mr. Trinkus, you are familiar with low impact design development?
Yes,
And
yes, that
does
is my area of expertise.
And does the stormwater design comply with, and referencing it in the regulation, and again, 2810, does this encourage low impact development techniques?
Regarding the section you read, yes, it is encouraging applicants to use them.
And does this application encourage low impact design techniques?
This application is not what we would consider an LID design. It was all structural drainage, i.e. catch basins, pipe, concrete galleries.
And just so we're not accused of just offering conclusions. Can you explain to the commission why that is in a little bit more granular way?
Well, low impact development is a focus on mimicking Mother Nature, basically by using vegetated systems to filter runoff where nutrients can be taken up by the vegetation to grow, and also to filter the water through soil media to reduce many of the other pollutants, and basically create similar systems to what exists in Mother Nature that function long-term, addressing water quality, putting the water back into the ground, which reduces runoff volumes, and creating a system very similar to an undeveloped site. That's the whole purpose of LID, is to mimic Mother Nature from a stormwater perspective.
I don't know. The commission has further questions.
That's fine. We have to reach out to our town engineer as we normally do. So, okay. Well set. Anything else?
Thank you, Mr. Trinkus. Yeah. Next, in terms of the development that is proposed in NDBD standards, there's been no presentation and there's no basis upon which this commission can find that the proposed development is designed to serve local community, meaning 12.5 of the regulations says the purpose of the district is to provide local neighborhoods with needed and desirable convenience goods and services. And that is not something that has been the subject of this application at all, in a manner which will not be detrimental to the surrounding residential areas. The uses permitted in this zone shall be limited to those which will primarily serve the local neighborhood and are consistent with the purpose for which this district was designed. And nothing's been offered on that, nothing. So it's inconsistent under any circumstances, even if you were inclined to change the map, which once again, there's so many reasons not to. The traffic report and the traffic analysis, it was not couched as being a report even by the consultant who spoke this evening. There were so many things that were not included in the report that one would ordinarily expect to see, dealing with level of service, a study of the actual speed, and not just looking at the posted speed limit that was referenced. There was no peak hour turning movement or weekend counts. It's unclear what time of day the applicant was on site. Issues of pedestrian and bicycle safety on it at a station that has a considerable number of young people riding bikes and the like in that neighborhood was not analyzed. The sort of parking and circulation was not well analyzed. There is a sightline problem evidently that was not analyzed. And once again, this is all in a historic district, and sort of the impacts on the road in terms of the historic and scenic resource was not analyzed. And so I would, the commission has discretion in accepting experts that are produced by an applicant. And I would suggest that this really didn't meet the standard that this commission should expect from a consultant. There was a letter from the Economic Development Commission, and I always find that interesting. And some years ago, I did an analysis, and I appreciate sort of economic development and the job they do in Fairfield. But that commission, I think I went back 20 years. I think I went back 20 or 25 years, I think, to the early 90s. And they've never, I think there was one instance in which a project was not recommended, endorsed by economic development. And I think their purview is really just promoting economic development. So I don't think the commission should put that much credence on that. Going back to 12.5.2 in the district, it appears that the building is the way it's designed, a single tenant building. I believe it exceeds the permitted floor area. And once again, the applicant hasn't addressed so many of the standards in 25.7.7. And I know the commission is familiar with it. The development shown on the site and architectural plan shall be of such a character to harmonize with the neighborhood, to accomplish a transition in character in areas of unlike character, to protect property values in the neighborhood, to preserve and enhance the appearance and beauty of the community, and to avoid undue traffic congestion. I would suggest that the applicant has not offered substantial evidence with which the commission could find that those standards are met. So 8-2 Connecticut General Statute speaks to sort of the standards that this commission should apply in both adopting the zoning map and amending the zoning map. And, it speaks to conformity with the comprehensive plan. It speaks to promoting health, general welfare, and public safety. It speaks to avoiding overcrowding, reducing traffic congestion, and preserving neighborhood character and encouraging, it speaks to housing opportunities, but also safeguarding existing housing. And I would suggest that the application doesn't meet any of those standards. And that really has not been adequately addressed by the applicant. I've talked about consistency with the plan of conservation and development, and it's clearly not consistent in terms of the obvious impacts on the historic district. You have, I guess, one other thing I'll touch on is I guess the analysis has not been done on the protest petition, but I believe there were 66 signatories, and I think you'll find that it far exceeds the threshold once the analysis is done. But just think, there's just no basis to grant this application. And I think that once again, the commission, fair exercise of the jurisdiction vested in you from a planning perspective initially on the map amendment. There's just, it's the argument, the application is just unsupportable. And sort of on the zoning side, and especially the applicant has not produced substantial evidence to support the standards and the things that the commission has defined, grant an application like. So that's all I've got. As always, I want to thank you for your patience. I'm happy to answer any questions. I don't think we left anything out. Everybody's good.
Yeah, good.
Sorry.
Yeah, Attorney Green, the A portion of the, it's a non-conforming lot. There's
The A
the
portion,
existing A portion that they seek the zone change. I don't think you have.
it's not a lot, it's not a lot.
The area that's in
Split
zone A,
parcel. Yes, that's right.
it would currently not meet be a building lot for purposes of a residence in A zone, correct?
Well, as a separate parcel, it would.
Yes.
Correct.
Because it doesn't have the 75 foot of frontage.
That's right.
probably.
But it's not a separate parcel, it's one parcel.
But-
So,
It could be, and my concern is, here there's a proposed development along the railroad track and the back of the church. And this is not the first time this parcel's been in front of us. I think I was on the commission when there was a proposal for the maritime office building back there
correct.
for an existing tenant. Conceivably, with a ZBA waiver, one could put a residence immediately abutting the neighbors. Correct?
That's not correct. Well, yes,
With
the
the ZBA
answer
waiver.
is, that is correct with a ZBA waiver. However, the ZBA waiver could not be granted with respect to this property, because in order to get a waiver, you'd have to demonstrate a hardship under 8-6. And in this case, you have an existing property that has a robust economic use on it already. So by definition, it's an income producing property with an existing use on it that's that is conforming in the area of the lot that it's on. And the law does not grant hardships to accept. The law does not grant variances except where there's a hardship and the desire for more economic development on a site is not the basis.
If it ends up in front of Judge Radcliffe, you would agree that this is probably not a hardship, correct?
100%.
Okay. In terms of the ZBA, they often do seem to grant waivers, isn't that correct?
Well,
Not to cast
how would you
aspersions.
like me to comment?
I'll withdraw the question.
I would hope that the ZBA would follow the law, and if they follow the law, they would deny an application for a variance. And you're a lawyer and you're familiar with zoning, what possible reason could the applicant offer to justify a variance here, where they have an income producing property that's usable, and the law has not acted to confiscate the property by virtue of the adoption of zoning regulations? Quote Judge
I'll leave
Radcliffe.
that to, I'll leave that to when they do the subdivision and seek a variance. I've seen it all, you have to.
So if that's the case, that we'll deal with that
We'll deal with
in
it.
the neighborhood.
Yeah, my
We'll
concern
address
is,
it when we get to it.
are there alternative uses there that could effectively be worse? And what I'm hearing from you is that basically that portion could not be used.
There's an existing great use on the site and we accept it. It's historic. It's been there for a long time. The neighborhood accepts it. It's become more intense over the years. It was, I think, a quieter use, but so we understand when I think, and I'm speaking for a lot of people here, and I don't mean to do that, but I think everyone accepted the notion of a real estate office being there and the like, and everybody goes along and gets along, but this is just too far. And that's the point.
My only other concern is they could go farther. We've seen that.
No, they can't, because first of all, there's a moratorium. Secondly, that street will not support any significant increase in development on that site.
I mean,
As a
listen,
matter of public health.
you yourself said rightfully, somewhat correctly, because that's been our experience as well. Any traffic engineer who came in generally is given whatever they need to at least support the application. So it's not before us. I'm not casting anything on it. A tough year when it came to 830Gs in general. But I just, in the back of my mind, you got the moratorium in place, it's fine. We'll deal with the commission whenever it comes up, if it ever comes up, because it hasn't, and maybe it doesn't for a variety of reasons down in that area, but just, at least me, especially, very gun shy with other applications that could be put out there
And I have to respect that because it has been a tough year for me. But these folks love this neighborhood. I think Fairfield loves this neighborhood. It's a great neighborhood and it's a gem. And I guess we can't, as we've said
I
before.
can't foresee
we
the
can't
issue.
feel
I
it
just,
here.
I mean, just when I see a building like this, and I didn't, come to these things unsure, and it's fine. I just saw at the very least, potentially a protection of the neighborhood at the same time. If the neighbors are objecting to it, well, as you said, we'll review everything as we do in our normal course, but putting a building there too may also very well protect against future things as well, but that's not for me to decide. That's not.
But I guess the point is, it won't. If you approve this application or not, it's not going to change that analysis.
Buildings built there, you think that's, if something goes there?
Or if it's approved, either way, that's been a problem, or it's been a possibility forever. And
I think it's, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it would be lessened with a new building there. But I don't want to go down a rabbit hole. We did that earlier, so it's fine. Anything else? Mr. Randolph?
So most of the parcels in NBD, correct?
no, most of them are Residence A.
No, this current one.
Oh, most of it, yeah, sure.
So neighborhood is built on Commissioner Noonan's point. 3-story building, 30 feet high, mixed use, would be permitted on the site, provided it met the parking. 75% lot coverage
In an NDBD,
and NDD.
Neighborhood Design Business District.
So a more intensive use would be,
Is promoted by granting this application.
a more intensive use, 75% lot coverage under an NDD. 3 stories, mixed use would be permitted under a current ordinance.
I believe that Residence A allows 2.5 stories and
Neighborhood design district, split
allows
zone.
3 stories.
Yeah, 3 stories, 30 feet.
Go ahead.
I'm just asking, just clarifying that.
I believe that's the case.
So is that what we're steering towards is compliance with the neighborhood design district regulations? Because we're rejecting something that is perhaps a lower intensity of use?
I don't understand.
There's an objection because this site is seen as too intense, but the permitted use in a neighborhood design district, yeah,
Where they're seeking to extend the zone would be adding a more intense use on that,
onto,
Portion.
onto
that
A.
portion, on that
Yes,
A.
onto A.
Yes,
But right now this is a 2-story building, correct?
There's no building.
The proposed building is 2 stories.
Yes.
So the permitted use is 30 feet, 3 stories under a neighborhood design district. Correct?
Yes.
Okay, just want to be clear. So is you represent Soskenog, are they trying to steer the use to this to a more intensive, community oriented, a purpose that serves the local community in the community district? Is that the intent?
No.
Well, I'm just saying the objection was that this building did not serve the community. That was one of your objections, correct?
The use has not been identified as one that serves the immediate neighborhood, which is required in an NDB.
Right. And so that's one of your primary objections?
One of the many objections.
Yeah, but that's out of the things. And then, so in terms of the architecture, you objected to that as well?
I am not qualified. Do I like it personally? No.
But I think you did mention that it didn't match the neighborhood.
The intensity of the use of the site.
I was just trying to clarify your objection, so.
And by the way, in terms of your steering away, there are, by virtue of the geometry of the site and as it's laid out, the possibility of that 3-story building you're talking about is mitigated because you can't park that many cars on the site the way it's configured. So
Under the current parking regulations,
under the current,
which are inconsistent with POCD.
well,
Right. I'm saying,
okay. So
I'm just trying to understand what you're objecting to clearly. And it's
by denying the text amendment, as you should, and as we hope you will, there are natural controls created on the development of the site. And presumably, over all these years, when this commission had an idea of eliminating split zone properties, presumably this commission didn't do it in the past because you recognize the value of keeping this site as it is, even in the face of past applications that were before the commission.
I'm not going to address that because you're presuming the commission has done something for a specific reason, and that's a different conversation. So,
Well, it's been before the commission several times. The commission recognized the wisdom of protecting this community in the past. We hope you'll continue to do that.
and it's for the record, it's one of the most, one of the neighborhoods that is most deserving of preservation. I wholeheartedly. So.
Commissioner Braun.
I have a question about the traffic. So they did not do a complete traffic study, is what you're saying. I'm trying to recall, so I think some of the neighbors spoke about how congested and how almost dangerous it is in that general area.
It is congested.
So would you have, so it concerns me that they mentioned there's a 25-mile-per-hour speed limit, but that didn't go anywhere. What would the traffic study have shown more than that?
I don't know,
If
but
they did a regular traffic report. 25 mile an hour, they didn't test the actual
they
speed.
didn't.
um,
That's the actual speed.
Or sight line.
They didn't
Now-
do a sightline analysis.
But there's an existing driveway that they're using, so that's what I'm saying. How does this change that, except that more cars are coming in and out of that?
You already have a very difficult traffic situation on the street. They didn't really provide you with background data on what is existing on the street. And instead just say, well, we're only adding 12 trips based on the discounted, the 20% credit they took for TOD. And it's just not, it's not a credible traffic study.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for hearing me. I appreciate it. And if I don't get to speak again, I know there's an election coming up and I wish everybody all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So let's turn to the rest of the public. If you've already spoken, you're welcome to come up about the new items. I'd like not to be duplicative because other people would like to speak, I suspect. Attorney Green was also pretty comprehensive as well. Feel free to come up, state your name, address. We're limiting lay public to 3 minutes, considering the time. And when do we need to finish this?
So that is an item of discussion, I think, for Attorney Russo. I believe for this one, we kind of did a soft withdrawal and resubmittal because we were out of time.
Attorney Russo,
We did. Right, because we, I think we were gonna run out of time by yesterday.
up to Attorney Russo while I.
Yeah.
Why don't you
Chair,
guys-
just let me understand, are you saying keeping the public hearing open?
No, I'm trying to figure out when the hearing needs to conclude.
If it concludes tonight, then you have 65 days.
I know that, but if I don't conclude tonight for whatever reason, I want to know, do I need to conclude tonight? I guess is my question.
Okay, yeah,
I need to
I'll look at it.
Yeah, please. All right, I'm sorry. We have statutory deadlines to meet and I want to meet them because if we don't, then it's granted automatically by law. And I don't think anybody wants that. So, any member of the public wish to be heard, please come up. We'll do as best we can cues. If you've already spoken, like I said, please don't be duplicative. Again, Attorney Green was very comprehensive. I'm trying to limit people to 3 minutes, which is what's in this little timer here. Then is anybody joining us remotely? Let's see. Just get a sense of it.
Yeah,
Go ahead, sir.
I've already spoken. I'm Jim Bohan. My wife Eileen and I live on 51 Station Street adjacent to the property. Joel's done a very good job. I just want to bring up one point very briefly. In 2007, we circulated a petition by the majority of the property owners on Station Street to request designation at Station Street as a scenic road, a Connecticut state scenic road. The state statute that its creation of scenic roads as a provision for just to eliminate a scenic road requires the same process. A majority of the property owners on Station Street signed a petition to eliminate a scenic road. I should think, I'm not an attorney, but I should think before you could grant zone change on a scenic road, you have to de-designate the scenic road, which requires that same majority of the property owners sign off. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is John Frainer. I'm the chairman of the Board of Trustees at Southport Congregational, and in addition to everything you've heard from Joel Green and Susquehanna, One additional concern we have, and I sent a note to Ms. Harrigan tonight. I'll just paraphrase this. When the property was up for sale several years ago, the church did look at purchasing it. And we were informed by the seller or the disclosure that the property was contaminated. We were advised by our counsel that by purchasing the property, we would be taking on that environmental liability. So we decided not to purchase the property. We currently have a free school with a little over 100 children that attend that. Our additional concern is that you heard from the water control person that there will be some cisterns, catch basins installed on the property, construction. We do not believe, well, we were never shown the soil sample, the survey that was done, that was disclosed to us by the seller. And we are not aware that any remediation has been done on the site. So not knowing what's there, knowing that there's been no remediation, and knowing that we've got a preschool nearby, we're just concerned about potential runoff and what could impact our property. So it's an additional concern that I don't think you've heard this evening. So, thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Well, come on up, that's fine, yeah. Ma'am,
Thank you. I live on Pequot Avenue.
we just need you up here, please, just to get you on video, please.
Marlene Sheehan, 808 Pequot Avenue. And I've lived there for 45 years. And the traffic in the last, I have to say, 7 years has become ridiculous. My grandchildren could barely take their bikes from the house we live in across the street during certain hours. I could sell flowers on Pequot Avenue in the middle of the road as in New York City because the traffic is so backed up. It's ridiculous, and anything that contributes to more traffic, it's not right. It's as simple as that. It's not right. Connecticut, I-95, they get off of I-95 and they take Pequot Avenue as their detour. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. No worries, Dick. Feel free to stand or sit, whatever you like.
Sorry,
Feel free to stand or sit, whatever you're comfortable.
thank you.
Fine.
I'm Margaret Zellers. I live at 95 Main Street in Southport, and I have been assured that you all have received my letter. Didn't urging you to deny this application. I just want to reiterate what Marlene has said about the traffic. I pointed that out in my letter, that when Waze sends people, they come right through Pequot Avenue. I also would like to offer to rent a small bus to bring you all to the site to look at it and see where it is. Southport is a very special place. It is available for the entire Fairfield community and anyone else who would like to come and enjoy what it is. But many of us have worked very hard to try to preserve the asset that we know that we have for the town of Fairfield. And when you come to see the place that this proposed development would have in a very small community where there is a sense of scale, I think you would agree that it is not appropriate for the site. Thank you for listening, and thank you very much, all of you, for all of the time that you devote. This is a very difficult job. You have the heart and soul of Fairfield in your hands as far as your choices of what you're going to do on the zoning. It makes a big difference, but it particularly makes a huge difference to Southport. Come and see for yourselves, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other member of the public? Which is fine. I mean, Attorney Green standing and everybody else. I think we have a sense of where everybody is, but does anybody else wish to speak? You can see if anybody's online. Is there anybody joining us remotely, Mr. Mullen?
There is, but I can't tell who it is. There's, someone's got their hand raised.
Is there anybody here? Just fine again.
Oh, their hand was raised, now the hand's down. So,
Well, let me give a general.
Yeah.
Is there anybody joining us remotely that wishes to be heard in this application, 65 Station Street? Please write your name in the chat function or raise your digital hand with the digital hand feature at the bottom of the dashboard. You need to identify yourself, otherwise you're not gonna be able to speak. Any member of the public joining us remotely, please raise your digital hand or sign in the chat function. Anybody joining us in person?
I'll talk some more.
I'll end the public comments portion, turn it back over to Attorney Russo for a rebuttal.
Chair, Commissioners, Chair, just to answer the question. I think that, though it seems like it's gonna conclude, I think you have until 11/8. Accept it.
Well, yeah, I think we'll conclude tonight then.
All right.
Just want to double check that earlier.
Okay, so, all right. I think first what I'll do is let our experts respond to some of the comments from Attorney Green, that Attorney Green made, Mr. Trinkus. Brian, Carey should be on. Brian, if you're there. And John, yeah, if you can. Brian Carey, yeah. Respond to Mr. Trinkus's comments.
Mr. Carey's unmuted.
There we go. Gary,
Good evening, Brian Carey, for the record. I don't know if you can see me. Hold on. Oh, there you go. So I'm here on behalf of the applicant from Land Tech. We're a civil engineering environmental firm and out of Westport, Connecticut. The project engineer actually could not be here tonight. He just had a baby, or his wife had a baby. But I just want to address a couple items by Mr. Trickhouse. They did not receive a response from the town engineer's office in regard to the stormwater system. I don't want to say that's because there wasn't any kind of words in their mouth, but based on what we consider a relatively small project on an existing built out property, this is a relatively uniform and pretty standard system. One of the first things I'd like to address that was brought up is the idea of no LID on the site. LID is generally incorporated on sites that can support it, meaning larger sites that are being redeveloped, either being developed for the first time, or larger sites that have the opportunity for LID. Both the town of Fairfield's engineering standard plus the Connecticut DEP that not all sites are can support LED into infill development, which is what we have here. That being said, the system that we develop is appropriate for the site, and it does meet the town of Fairfield's engineering standards that it must attain stormwater up to the 100-year storm. So we do meet that. It is in our report that has been submitted into the records and is also backed up by the site development plan. And we also do meet the water quality manual, the DEP stormwater manual for the state of Connecticut. I think what Mr. Trinkhouse is referring to when he refers to initial primary treatment, most of this, you see the site plan is coming off of the roof, which by the stormwater DEP stormwater manual is considered clean and does not require pre-treatment. because obviously there's no oils and grits and things like that getting onto the roof. We do have 2 catch basins that empty into the system. Those catch basins will be outfitted with hoods, and will be deep catch basin for the project. So the system only drains 2 areas of the parking lot into the treatment system. So the primary treatment is small for this particular property. That being said, an operation and maintenance plan will be filed on the land records as part of the program. The project that will be normally is handled between the applicant and the town engineering department after permits are issued. It's kind of a pretty boilerplate type of process, but that is also a requirement of the DEP stormwater quality manual. So that being said, I take exception to some of the comments that are made by Mr. Trinkhouse. The system does work as designed and does meet both the town of Fairfield engineering standards and the DEP stormwater quality manual specification. So that being said, it's really pretty standard for this type of development, and it's something I know the commission readily sees on other projects of this size or larger properties.
Not a deal, but I mean.
Thank you.
Any questions? Mr. Braun?
Was a phase 2 environmental study done on this when this was being sold? One of the neighbors mentioned there was some kind of study related to soil testing for pollution, being that it was a manufacturing facility for firearms when it was owned by Sturm Ruger.
I'm not sure. Land Tech doesn't provide those type of
I can answer that question.
environmental.
Yeah, Brian, I can answer that because I spoke to the property owner. So they bought in 2012, which after, I think the gentleman said 2007, I believe was the date he referenced. They bought in 2012. They did remediate when they remediated when they purchased the property.
Was it under the transfer? This is out of
Including, I don't know the detail. I didn't represent my client during that time period.
Okay.
But he said there were contaminated soils that had to be removed. He did that at the time when it was 2012 is when he purchased it.
So that would have been a DEP project.
Yeah, and I mean, that stuff is all, regulated.
Okay, and I do have a question because I've studied it a little bit. That air pollution does go onto the roof and different compounds can end up on the roof. Heavy metals, copper, zinc, lead from roofing materials, microbes from animal waste, PAHs and other volatile organic compounds from air pollution and adhesives, pesticides, et cetera. That all can come off a roof into a roof gutter. So my question is, there's no real remediation of what the water is that goes into this drainage system. It's really just to collect water and prevent it from overflowing. It doesn't really clean, as Mr. Trinko said, there's not much here that treats the water for water quality. Just the catch basin treats it a tiny little bit, but the galleries don't have any treatment at all, right? And that's really the whole system, isn't it?
What we're doing is standard industry practices. I mean, you see it against off of all projects of similar size. We have requirements that we need to make. I'm not disagreeing with you to a certain aspect, but we follow the stormwater treatment manual to a T. I don't know anyone who's treating above and beyond the stormwater quality manual that's required by the DEP. Our report meets both the requirements of the DEP and the town of Fairfield engineering standard.
I guess my thought is that on a very densely developed area like this, which is a lot of impervious surface, and so close to Long Island Sound, I would think maybe it would go maybe above it. I mean, Attorney Green pointed out, and Mr. Trinkos pointed out that this does not comply with the 2024 stormwater manual in certain regards. And also, isn't the stormwater manual the floor, not the ceiling of what we should be doing when we you know, when we develop a property. In other words, that you have to meet that, but maybe you have to go beyond that if it calls for that. That's my concern. I don't want to add any pollution to the area. Is there something that could be done better?
I think that's a policy question. There's standards that we as engineers and individuals need to meet. We're meeting those standards. I think it's above and beyond on certain treatments. I don't think it's warranted on this site. I think what is being proposed is protective of the environment and is in accordance with the design regulations that we need to meet for as part of industry standard. If there's ways that we can introduce additional BMPs, we do look at that when we do our initial design. We feel that the system is more than adequate to address the stormwater that is being associated with the proposed building.
Thank you.
And so we could design to the regulations, and I mean, that was, I'm not an expert in this, but one of the things I noticed when Mr. Trinkus was making his presentation, is one of the first things he said is that we were using a line, our team was using a line in the regulations, which is also known as using the regulations. And that's what we did here. We designed to what the standards are. I think that there's obviously the backstop that the engineering department is going to review any building permit application, make sure, give their own view, whether they agree with us that it's compliant. Our experts say it's compliant. The other thing is, I heard you mention Long Island Sound too, is I'll note that there is a comment letter from Deep
That's all
saying
right.
that we're consistent with the Coastal Management Act, and there was a review by staff, I think as well, that was submitted in the record that said that as well.
Commissioner Harrison, then Randolph.
I just had a question, and I think Mr. Noonan asked before. Did our own town engineer, I know that, I think Mr. Hurley did review it from a traffic standpoint. Because I hear that Mr. Carey is saying that this aligns with our own standards, stormwater, but did someone actually review that?
With the town?
Yeah, with the town?
That's what we asked staff,
That's
and I
why I
think
asked,
they were getting to that.
I'll check in with the engineering department. I had thought that they did, but I don't see that comment in the record, so I will circle back around with them.
And to the extent that they haven't, or it's, kind of a sentence, let's ask them for it. Explanation of what they think of its compliance and satisfactory and stuff.
Can we keep it open until we get it in case there's new information that's relevant for more discussion? I know it's closed. We have to close on the 11th unless we get the information or on the 8th.
No, that
We
would be.
regularly close hearings and then ask our town agencies, so I don't see any reason why not to do that here.
And I just, one more question.
Well, I was just gonna say, the condition I don't think is really necessary, but we would accept a condition that it would be signed off by the engineering department. I mean, it would have to be anyways, but, I mean, we have no issue with that.
Is Mr. Carey, are you a licensed engineer?
No, I'm not. I stated that up front. I'm actually pitch hitting for.
Oh, right, okay, sorry, Sorry, that was my fault. I may have messed up. Thank you.
Commissioner Randolph.
A question was raised about the potential contamination of the soil and possibility of it impacting the adjoining property, which is preschool. What's the date of the latest phase one?
I'm not sure as to the exact date. I know from talking to my client, when he went and purchased the property, he remediated it. He removed contaminated soil that was there from when it was a Ruger factory. And I know there's codes and regulations with regards to when you develop on a property like that controls all this.
We have phase one as part of the application package.
Not for a standard application such as this, we would not have it.
And just for clarification, when is a phase one required for a project like this?
Well, it's usually a property transfer is when we see it. So unless it's been identified by the DEP as a brownfield, it's not something that we recognize as part of the requirements.
It's not a major site disturbance and you don't, okay. So could we require that a phase one be required? Would that be? And closing out of any recognized environmental concerns identified in the phase one?
I don't know the requirements for something like that. And
No,
I
I'm
don't,
asking for that because there's an adjoining property with a sensitive operation with small children on it.
my understanding, I don't know if Brian knows anything with regards to this, but I think that's controlled anyway, by,
Not
no, but not with regards to zoning. I've never seen a phase one involved with a zoning commission. I've just never seen that commissioner.
Process or not?
It's part of the environment, usually the stormwater plan, and if there's any wetlands, that's when it's part of that submission typically.
I have never seen a phase one submitted for a land use board. I just I haven't seen it. I've seen it on transfers. I've seen it on properties and I was involved with 250 Pequot Avenue, but that happened at the transfer. But when I went for the development of that property, there was no stage and there was wetlands involved there where phase one was required. So I'm sorry, Commissioner, I just am never familiar with that being involved in the land
Yeah,
use
we
process.
normally don't see it either. And we Fairfield has a very recognizable industrial past. So for those sites where we know that there were significant industrial users, we have a map actually on our economic and community development website that has the remaining brownfield sites that have yet to be remediated on that map. And I think there's only 3 sites that are still left that require remediation, at least based on what we know.
Okay, so you're not gonna do a phase one, or would that be?
Well, I think it was already done is the issue. I think it was already done.
Phase ones only have a 1 or 2 year, I think it's a 8-month shelf life.
Again, I don't know the details of that. It's like, I don't, and again, it's just not something I've seen in the land use process, so I don't. I'm
It's not something
familiar
we
with
see
that
regularly
requirement.
either.
The concern was raised, how would you address that concern? That this was a known site with contaminants, and the adjoining use is a preschool.
I would say we would abide by all building and engineering requirements for development of a piece that has that history.
Which is getting a phase one.
Sounds
If
like
it
they
is.
did that, but did you do that already?
I did do the phase one, yeah, there was
And then
remediation
did
that
it
was,
lead to anything else, like a phase 2?
as far as I know, and again, this is, as far as there was contaminated soil that was removed from the property. So I don't know what those requirements are, but we would just, whatever they were for developing a site like that, we would follow.
So if the soils have already been removed and it's been remediated, there should be a remedial action plan and a remedial action report that documents that.
That's filed with
Whether
where?
or not it's on file with DEP. Well, truthfully, it doesn't need to be filed anywhere if it's not in the Transfer Act program. So it could just be a business record. The requirement to have a phase 1 or phase 2 done is more of a transactional requirement as a real estate deal. What would hook the owner in is if there is some type of soil disturbance and there was contamination that was found during the removal of the material, they would be required to deal with that in a very specific way. But just for someone to say, I think there's contamination over there on a private property and it's impacting us, everyone would be able to make that claim about everyone over the town. Doesn't necessarily justify having a phase 1 and phase 2 done on every property that's within a former industrial commercial area. That being said, I understand the concern. What I would say is that we would look at the previous remediation history of the property. Obviously, the applicant does have an LEP that he works with, and there's probably a business record that has either been submitted to the state or is on file with the applicant.
Why don't we move on and we'll address this at the end, because we gotta finish this up, the other one after this. Unless you have another question.
I have one question for Russo. Oh, I lost it. Give me one.
Sure.
If you wanna.
Well, I was gonna have Mr. Olinsky respond.
You mind doing?
To
I'll defer to Mr. Olinsky.
Yeah, it'll be short. Neil or is Neil on or? no?
Yes.
Hello, I'm back. Neil Olinsky from SLR. I'll try to keep it brief to the point. As I mentioned in my presentation, this development is just simply not large enough to warrant a full-blown traffic study. It's just not. And that's that. We also received town engineer comments late today around 5 o'clock. He had some questions about sight lines from the existing driveway. We can look at that now. I can share my screen actually. Just so folks can see what we're talking about. So the existing driveway is here on Station Street. Looking to the left, you're essentially in a parking lot. You're looking as far as you can I'm talking from the driveway exit, the existing driveway exit. Looking to the left, you're seeing to basically the parking lot. Northbound tracks of the Metro North Station. It's right there, and any cars coming through here are going very slow. You're essentially in a parking lot. Looking to the right, you could see just about as far as possible. Again, this time all the way down to Pequot Avenue, which is about 335 feet away. 335 feet of sight distance, intersection sight distance, corresponds with 30 mile per hour approaching speeds based on the Connecticut DOT's Highway Design Manual. But clearly nobody is at this point turning onto Station Street going that fast, because you have to physically slow to take a left or a right from Pequot Avenue to Station Street. So that meets the sight lines there as well. So hopefully that gets on the record. Town engineer had some comments about putting in a parking sign along the site frontage, 75 Station Street. I think there's some mailboxes there. I don't think have anything against putting up a no parking sign here. But to my knowledge and based on the crash history data, there's been no crashes here in this particular area. I don't see a problem here. And again, this is an area where people are going very slow. It's essentially a parking lot. And the one crash that did happen in the last few years on Station Street, I think it was a one vehicle crash where the driver, for whatever reason, hit a tree. So it had nothing to do with this development's driveway. So I think that's everything else on traffic. Be happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, this is actually my question. So also in Mr. Hurley's email that we got around 5 o'clock today, he said the applicant should explain to the commission why minimal impact. What does that mean?
Minimal impact comes down to when we're talking about a development, we're looking specifically about the amount of new traffic a development is realistically estimated to generate, because this is a quite small development, under 7,000 square feet of office. The statistics would say it's only going to generate on a peak hour basis during the busiest hour of a day, a typical day, 9 to 12 trips. So those 9 to 12 trips, are they going to have an impact on the area roadway network, the roadway system? ConnDOT would not even bother to look at this because it's underneath their threshold for new trips. This is just simply not a lot of new traffic, and it's not going to have an impact based on our professional opinion. Not a traffic impact. It's just too small.
Commissioner Braun.
I'm still concerned about the reduced visibility comment in your traffic report. Is that the same area that you were just pointing out here, where you suggested they put a one-way street there?
No, the reduced visibility had to do with the Pequot Avenue at Station Street intersection. And, when we see something, we say something. We'd be happy, I think, to accept a condition to go to the traffic authority and discuss it with them, see if they want to, consider putting in no left turn signs or making streets one way. We're not the final, we don't have the final say on that, but we'd be happy to talk it further with the traffic authority and the town engineering department if you would like.
But that reduced there's one egress, right?
One egress. Yeah,
From the
what
site.
Mr. Hurley was talking about was the site driveway, and that's what Mr. Linsky's been talking
It's
about.
the same place.
Yeah, the thing we talked about previous was about Pequot Avenue, not Station Street.
Correct.
Any other questions for traffic? What's up there?
Okay, so yeah, I think that's, I think we're all set with our experts, but they'll stay on in case there's additional questions that come up. And I did confirm that DEP signed off on the remediation in 2012.
How'd you confirm that?
With client.
Text him.
Yes. Text me, so that's how I.
Does he have documents?
I think the plans that if there are plans, according to what Mr. Carey said, again, we're not, we could submit those. But
Well,
I mean, we would just follow whatever, if there was a plan.
Say that again, just a little louder, please. If there were plans, then you would have them and you would submit them.
We could submit them to the town and
All right.
make sure we follow.
Why don't you sum up? Sum up and we'll.
Okay, so in responding to comments, first, I just wanted, Attorney Green referenced a violation. He provided no evidence about that. I think there's no evidence of any violation. I think he just threw that out to muddy the waters. But he didn't submit anything with regards to that. Regarding the comments from Conservancy and the neighbors, first off, I think I said this last time, the Susquehanna Conservancy, I have a great working relationship with them. They are always very considerate with their time with me, and to meet with me on applications. I've worked with that, and met with them, I should say, on prior applications. So I certainly respect their expertise in the area. And again, they're always very generous with me. They're certainly nicer to me than some of the Facebook groups. So I take their comments to heart. But to respond to some of the comments, particularly the ones that were outlined in the letter that Attorney Green submitted. First was that this location lies in the heart of Southport Village. It occupies a prominent site, highly visible for all who arrive in Southport from New York City and Stamford by train. Again, here's the key point, which I know I've made multiple times. The building is located in the NTBD zone. So it's located in a place where it is permitted. It's fully within it. And it's in line with the other commercial buildings that are on the site. And, as I know you've seen on the site plan, it's as far from the residential neighbors as it can possibly get. Let me just put this down. What we're talking. Okay. So, and the building's designed to match in accordance with the requirements of the historic district, because we have to go after this and get approval, a separate approval from the Historic District Commission. So we know we have to get that, and that's why we designed it in this manner. And I think what it will do, this building, this proposed building, it'll be in line with the existing buildings on the site, and will create a buffer between the residential properties to the south and the train tracks to the north. And here's a key, that I haven't mentioned yet. We're developing this site while maintaining the existing buildings on the site that, obviously have some historic significance. My client bought the site, he remediated, he renovated the existing buildings with significant oversight to improve them. He's won 4 beautification awards in Southport. He's done, and if you've been to the site, it's an impeccable site. It looks great, and this new building will follow along with that. I think I don't know if Commissioner Randolph, if that was what you were driving to when you were questioning Attorney Green about the existing zoning, but I mean, there is a potential that you could, because so much of this site is the NDD, you could remove all the buildings on site, and then under the regulations that are permitted, you could build a 3-story building on this portion that was 75% coverage on this portion and 100% floor area, because those are the NDD regulations. So to me, this is a very responsible development of this site, because it's maintaining these historic structures and it's adding this building and keeping that coverage much, much lower than even just this portion of the NDD would allow, and the FAR much, much lower than this portion of the NDD allows. And I think, Chair, if I'm reading into your comments, which I know I don't want to get too much into, it resolves the site, because I know the neighbors have said that there's been a lot of applications on site and looking at the development. To me, this is the parking that's needed to support these three buildings. And that will, once and for all, I think, solve the development of the site, and it'll set it for a long time. Again, my client's invested a lot in the renovation of these buildings. He would obviously invest a lot in the construction of the new building as well. There was a comment, the scale of the proposed, in the letter, it says it's a 13,391 square foot building. Will dominate Southport's historic congregational district and the residential neighborhood surrounding Southport's historic and picturesque eastbound train station. So it's an incorrect calculation of what our floor area is, or footprint is especially. The footprint of the new building is only 3,421 square feet. It is not that large of a building. In comparison, the church is over 15,000, and Trinity, which is just a little bit down the road, is over 14,000 square feet footprint. So I just don't see how this building would dominate Southport Congregational. Next comment was the residential area adjacent to the train station is now buffered from the 65 Station Street building by the area currently zoned as residential, but requests to be rezoned as NDBD with the reduced setbacks and wide range of permitted uses that would attend such a rezoning. And again, I go back to what we're proposing here is within the portion that is nearest the neighbors, there is not that much changing. There's already parking. Here's the start of the residential A, which has, I think, as Commissioner Levy pointed out, no frontage on Station Street. It starts within the site and then comes along this line. There's parking spaces already here and extending to this point. We are flattening that, extending these spaces, and these spaces here would be new spaces. But while maintaining that landscaped area to serve as a buffer to these residents. This property here, just so you know, this property here is actually a DRD. And then these are residential A. So particularly for the residential A lots, I think that this conservation easement will be valuable in protecting them from a development in this portion that is really not that significant. Next comment was the proposed zoning change from a residential to a NDBD would set a dangerous precedent for Southport Village and its historic character, opening the way for other developments out of character with the historic integrity of Southport, and commercial creep inconsistent with the village and community. This isn't commercial creep. It's a long-standing historic commercial property. Frankly, the opposite has been happening in Southport. 250 Pequot Avenue was commercial, and it's in the middle of becoming residential. 204 Old Post Road is on this agenda for tonight, proposing to go from industrial to residential. 95 Old Post Road is going from industrial to mixed use. And all this is proposing is a slight increase in the amount of the lot that's in the NDBD. So the entire lot's in the NDBD. And it's a property that has been commercial for decades. So it'd be completely different if this was a residential piece, a historical residential piece that was going to commercial. That could be commercial creep. But I don't think there's any threat here. There's no precedent set. It's not like somebody could come and make the same argument for this piece here, because again, this has been commercial, this has not. So I don't think there's any precedent set by approving the zone change. The proposed development will add almost 50% more parking spaces from the current 37 spaces to a total of 54 spaces, significantly increasing traffic congestion. on the residential streets feeding into and out of the train station, posing a threat to pedestrian commuters and traffic. There was also a comment regarding the size of the parking area and I think essentially saying it was too big and it was out of character for the size of the parking area. But on that specific comment, I'll note Southport Congregational has a large parking lot. There's a parking lot here, so there's parking here, there's parking all along here. So I think our parking area is not out of character from what you find, just even on the abutting properties. And I've met with Sasquatch a number of times on previous applications. They've stressed to me to make sure that there's sufficient parking on the site where I've had a development. And that's what we've done here. We've provided parking that's compliant with the regulations. To be frank, we probably don't even need that much parking. And I know there's discussions that this commission's having regarding parking. But you know, there wasn't a tool or mechanism to request that. So we're providing parking that's compliant with your regulations. Regarding split zoning, zoning designations aren't supposed to be used as buffers between properties. That's what regulations are for. It's not like this commission approved zoning maps where all commercial properties that border residential have a 5-foot, 10-foot, or 15-foot of A zone on it to act as buffer. I don't go to a Black Rock Turnpike property and then when I get, close to the residential, see that there's a 5-foot strip there. You have regulations for that under the regulations this was filed under, but are the old regulations. It was section 12.7.6.4, which dealt with the setback of a building in a design business district from an adjacent residential district boundary and set it at 10 feet. You have the same in your new regulations. It's section 6.5.1, same standard. That's how you zone and buffer residence districts, not using split zoning. One lot is supposed to be one zone, and that zone standards are what's applied to that one lot. So it's clear as day as to what can be developed there. In an ideal zoning utopia, every lot would conform to its standards. And the A zone portion of this lot could never conform to the A zone standards. I think Commissioner Levy, you were pointing that out. It has no frontage. It doesn't have the lot square. It's non-conform. And one of your goals is to eliminate non-conformities. And I think changing the zone to NTBD resolves that and makes this site fully conforming. We already talked about the soils. There was a question regarding the use. We're proposing a business and professional use. The regulations limit a single tenant to 4,000 square feet currently. Each floor is below 4,000 square feet. It was designed that way. So someone could take the first floor, another tenant could take the second floor. But that would be on their permit application, including their application for a certificate of zoning compliance. If they didn't comply with the regulations in effect, they wouldn't be issued it. Those are my response to the comments. To just go through the standards for each of these applications. For the zone change, the proposed zone change is in conformity with the POCD and the zoning regulations. One, it eliminates a nonconformity. There are existing commercial parking spaces that are within a residential zone. This application appropriately places them in the NDBD. It also eliminates the non-conforming A zone. The former POCD, which again was in effect at the time of the submission, spoke of maintaining the integrity of the NDBD by continuing commercial uses of a neighborhood scale and residential mixed uses. This zone change allows for this commercial use to operate in conformity with the regulations and on a scale that will not negatively impact the neighborhood. And its economic goals, the POCD stated that one of the goals is to seek balanced development and redevelopment of commercial and industrial uses. Again, this is not some massive change to this property or the area. It's not commercial creep. It's not taking a residential single-family property and making it commercial. It's taking a single lot, which abuts a train station, and putting the site into one zone that the overwhelming majority of the site currently sits. It's already overwhelmingly in the NDBD. This just completes and has it in one zone. I'll note the letter from the Economic Development Commission that supported this application. And I will note, it also conforms to your new POCD, which stated that the commission should review the zoning map and reduce residential, commercial, and industrial split zone properties. This application does exactly that. Regarding special permit and site plan review, the proposed use is expressly permitted in the NDBD, and the plan complies with all standards of the regulations when it's applied to the entire site. Again, when a building permit is submitted, a tenant will have to abide by the restrictions on the business and professional use for the NDBD. It's common to not have, and we're certainly not required to have our tenant when we apply for a special permit. Whatever tenant comes down the line is going to have to conform to what your regulations require, particularly with the restriction in floor area. We've submitted the necessary site plans, floor plans, and elevations, photometric and landscaping plan. We've also submitted a letter from our traffic expert reviewing the proposed development and presenting additional development. We felt we satisfied the standard without the report because the location of the building was already zoned in the NDBD, and the zoning designation of a property includes planning considerations about whether it's an appropriate site for the level of development permitted under those standards, which includes a consideration regarding traffic. So, I mean, that's why it's not, it's not required under your regulations to submit a traffic study. That's why on some application, the NDBD, we don't. But it's kind of baked into the decision to place a property in the commercial zone. But we were happy to provide that additional evidence, which I think demonstrated that this application will not have any significant impact on traffic. It does not generate that much traffic. And the commission can rely on personal knowledge of the commission members on such matters as traffic congestion, street safety. There's case law regarding that. But again, we were happy to provide that additional information. I'll also note, because I know Attorney Green discussed this impacts, and there was discussion by our experts regarding impacts on streets adjacent to a property. In case law, there's discussion about that and how offsite impacts like that should not be considered when conducting a site plan review. That's TLC development versus the Planning and Zoning Commission of the town of Brantford. The special permit standards discuss harmonizing with the neighborhood. I think this application, again, has done an exceedingly good job of that. I know it's Southport, but this is a TOD. And if you think of the other train station areas in town, Fairfield Metro has hundreds of units in its vicinity. Downtown Fairfield has hundreds of units. This is a two-story building in a zone that permits 3. And it's abutting an A zone that permits 2.5. So it's a half story below what the A zone permits. And then again, I went over those coverage numbers of being under the Residence A standards for both lot coverage and FAR. So I think it's an extremely responsible development for the site, and it will go through HDC to ensure it visually harmonizes with the remaining buildings on the site and the neighborhood. And then finally, this is coastal. And I just, again, want to point out that Deep reviewed and found that the zone change in coastal site plan review to be consistent with the CCMA, and town submitted comments also finding consistent. There will be no adverse impacts to coastal resources from the development of this property under the application. So with that, I'm happy to answer any additional questions. I believe we satisfy all your standards, and that this is a really responsible development of this piece that hopefully, after I know what's been a number of years, puts it to bed.
Final questions? I'm going to close the hearing subject to, you have any documents as to what the remediation was back then? That's the only documents that we'll accept. Just because I think it'll put a pin in what we've been discussing. All right. I'll end the hearing on this matter then, subject to that. condition.
Thank you.
Thank you. I leave it to you on this next these next 3 items, so I leave it to you as to what to do.
So the-
We're gonna put This hearing.
So as a modification, we only have 65 days in which for the commission to review the applicant to provide presentation and for you to actually make a decision. So it's a very compressed per 830G subsection 8H. You only have 65 days in total.
To act.
So to act in total, correct?
So when does that,
That is December 4th. And so,
there's not a separate deadline for it here.
no, everything has to be completed within 65 days.
Okay, Attorney Bellis, we had left off with you, just owed us some clarifying comments. How long is it gonna take you to go through those?
3 minutes.
And can you just raise, thank you for everyone who was here on the last item. We're
Yeah.
concluded on that,
You guys
so
can
feel
go.
free to
We
stay or
won't be
go.
offended.
The folks who are here for Biro, can you raise your hand if you actually plan to speak today? I know who's here for that. I just,
Why do you want to promote?
okay. Is everyone okay?
Everybody hates you.
Few extra minutes.
They don't want it. I mean, seriously.
You can stay if you want.
Attorney Bellis, please, we have a 10 o'clock curfew. We're gonna go a few minutes over, but I'd like to know.
Fast as I can.
Should I start? Yeah.
That's what I've been reading.
What's that?
Bob Smith's good.
I'm ready when you are.
Everyone's ready? I think yes, let's get going. Just speak loudly for the time being.
For the record, I'm attorney Stephen Bellis. And I had already given my rebuttal, but the commission asked me questions. And I'm only responding to those questions. And those questions had to do with a couple areas. I just want to point out to the commission, all the documents that I'm going to speak about tonight are already submitted, and you can look at them. They'll answer your questions, but I'll do a thumbnail sketch. One of them was the architectural plans had a elevation typo on the height of the garage. If you remember, we raised the whole building up, so the height of the garage now is shown correctly. Also, someone asked me to show the roof access, mechanical equipment locations on the roof, and garage screening. Those should have been submitted with the, what I call architect's plans. One of the commissioners asked the site plan showing the staircase to Biro Street, an improved walkway area on the southeast side of the parking lot, as well as the site distance plan at the relocated garage entrance. You may remember in our modification, our ramp into the garage was next to a neighbor's home. We moved it to an to an area which was adjacent to some wooded area, maybe owned by the condominium association. I'm not sure, but it's on the other side of the building. And so there was a request for a walkway, and that was done. You can look at Brian, the engineer's drawings on that. The last question was concerning traffic. One of the commissioners, I believe, asked about the traffic considerations for some of the new units or new apartments or whatever you want to call it that were approved. So that study was uploaded. It was attached in the 105 Biro, so we had it uploaded into this one. And then the second question was from a commissioner about how would the access ramp, specifically, how would the traffic be affected by that? And so a new report was produced dated October 21st. The traffic engineer, Kermit Ewa, looked at the new garage entrance in its new location, and summarizing, there's adequate site distances at the garage entrance on Finn Street that will ensure that traffic will be able to safely access the development through this driveway. In conclusion, the new design will reduce the development's traffic impact on Finn Street and Poe Court, and will provide adequate site distances for drivers to safely use the garage entrance on Finn Street. Those were the questions that you specifically asked us, and I've uploaded those documents. And so that's all I was going to be addressing tonight.
Thank you. Okay, and thank you, Attorney Bellis, and the public for your patience on that. We will go to public comment on these items specifically. Mr. Davis, I know you'd like to speak, so come on up, please.
I too, Tom Davis, 50 Finn Street. I too read the new proposals or new articles that were in the emails. My one concern is again, the traffic safety study. There's no difference in level of service now. It stays the same. And all the charts that they've had, they all stay the same. And from our professional engineer, he's stating that it cannot stay the same with the additional cars that are going in there. Either from Finn Street, by Road, Haley. Again, sightline coming out of the Finn Street garage, that's never been an issue. The issue is the T intersection that has now been, is now the problem coming from Finn Street and the new garage area. That's never been addressed. No, it like goes in one ear and out the other. They don't want to talk about it because they know it's a concern. The engineer still has not got back to me. The fire department still hasn't got back to me. The police, everybody's concerned about it, but nobody will say anything. Okay, just the same thing as the streets are not wide enough to accommodate a building of that capacity. So everybody's going around the clock, but they're not specifically zeroing in on the most important thing of this project is the pedestrian safety and the neighborhood safety. Nobody cares about that. The state of Connecticut states that if there's a safety problem with the project, that is the issue for denial. And all we see with this project is safety issues. But everybody wants to talk about a sight line. Everybody wants to talk, oh, I wonder who caught that elevation change. Geez, I wonder who that was. So all these items, they don't mean anything. I don't care what the building looks like. I do not care what the building looks like. I do not care what goes in the building. I care about the safety of our neighborhood. And nobody has addressed that. There's 300 more units and 300 more cars. Oh, don't worry about it. But everybody stated the streets will not accommodate that. Please take this into consideration. The safety factor in that neighborhood is totally gone. There is no safety. You can't walk your dog. You can't go for a walk. You can barely get down the street now, let alone with more cars. And you know they're going to park in the street because people are lazy. They're not going to go down the garage, down the Finn Street garage. They're going to park on Finn Street and they're going to walk in the front door because people are lazy. So my concern is the health and safety of my neighbors. And that stating, if you look at the state of Connecticut, take us to court. I don't care. If a judge can't see that it's the safety is an issue, then he shouldn't be a judge. So I've stated my case. I've said it before and before. I'm not going away. I'm going to stay and I'll fight this to the end. But safety should be your major concern. Nobody else cares about it. Thank you.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Did you say you were in the construction business?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Like I said, I've knocked down buildings, I've built buildings. I've knocked down houses, I built houses. I can read a blueprint. I showed you that last week.
Thank you. Representative Blanchard.
Good evening, Rob Blanchard. I'm a member of the RTM for the 6th District where this is proposed. I can't promise to be as fiery as Mr. Davis, but I submitted a letter along with my RTM colleagues, and I continue to have concerns about the pedestrian safety and the safety in the event of an emergency with this building. I would ask that you deny it without prejudice so that the applicant could potentially reduce the number of units to allow a greater parking plan or emergency access route on this building in the event that there is an emergency. As Mr. Davis suggested, there's going to be, mentioned there's going to be hundreds of units in this area. And this block, which I did walk last Friday and reminded how narrow it is really not going to be able to accommodate a fire truck and an emergency. A lot of people in that area park on the street. That's going to be really difficult. And so I think there's a way and a path forward here where we can reduce the number of units, still meet our housing needs, but also not make people who are walking, commuting, running, whatever the case may be, potentially injured or impacted in the event of emergency. So I ask that you deny with prejudice, continue to work with the applicant and find a path forward here. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Davis or either of you wish to be heard on this item?
I'm over it. We've talked about these safety issues and people have said,
You got her fired.
Never say never.
Celeste Davis, I live at 50 Finn Street. We've talked about the safety issues, the emergency vehicles. They brought in experts, and as we have seen all night long, these experts are paid to say whatever the developer wants them to say. And there's a lot of misinformation. And that's why people are upset, because there's a lot of misinformation and not really listening to real life situations. We live there, so we know what goes on. There was another question, and I'm surprised that my husband didn't bring it up, was the access to the fire department and being able to go around the building. That still has not been solved. The roads are too small. We're not going to be able to realize this until the monstrosity is built, and then what do you do? The infrastructure, the increased impact that it's going to have on schools and the fire department and the sewer system. And throughout this whole process, I don't think that they are really looking at the environmental kind of issues of the sewers. For whatever reason, the sewer department signs off on things, and I don't think they investigate it until there's a problem later on. So again, the project is too big and it has a lot of issues. And just as my husband said, we're not going anywhere. If there is a problem, we'll be getting in touch with someone every single day. Because again, that building needs to have asbestos removal. There's a lot of things. This has been a long process that all of that needs to be taken into consideration. And somebody today said something that's absolutely true. You have all gone above and beyond with everything that you have undertaken, and we appreciate it. So thank you. Thank you for everything that you have done for our town, because I know that it hasn't been easy. And it is a very emotional thing. When you have outsiders that come in, probably have never even been on the street. And one thing that I do want to say too is, I do stand corrected. There is a no parking sign on the street, and I've lived there for 40 plus years. I never noticed the no parking sign for two reasons. It's basically most of the time covered by a tree that the property owners don't take care of. And there are cars parked. We go home last week when we were here, we went home and I said, Tom said, you should have asked me, there's a no parking sign on there. There were two cars parked in front of the no parking sign. You cannot see that no parking sign. So I'm glad it came up on Google Earth for you. I'm sorry that I said that there wasn't, but there is one no parking sign.
Thank you. Mr. Ramon, anyone online who's indicated they want to speak? If you're joining us remotely, please raise your hand or sign in chat and indicate you want to be heard. Sir, you're good?
You good?
Yeah, he's good.
I know we only have one more person.
Sleep, I think he's
in the room.
sleeping.
Makes it easy. Okay, no one else?
I see, no.
Okay, thank you. I will close the public comment on this item. Attorney Bellis, any rebuttal?
I just respectfully disagree that there's a safety issue. I mean, the neighbors have pointed out, the experts have said otherwise.
And they lie.
That's it?
That's it.
You're good? Okay,
I talked to Governor Lamont last week and he asked me, why is it so difficult to get these affordable housing projects approved? You should go to some of these meetings.
I will end.
Here, I'll build a friggin' bridge and you'll see what happens.
In there.
It's
Thank
your
you
joke,
all.
your
Thank you all for your engagement on this. I appreciate it. Appreciate everyone keeping it civil. That being the last item, I will adjourn. the meeting.
Is he serious about that?
Thank you,
I
Mr.
thought it was just
Chair.
closed, you know?
Are we doing?